another episode of Man Cave Mondays. This is Dan with you once again in the Man Cave. This time I am in the, let's just say the recording studio wing of the Man Cave. Yes, my Man Cave has a wing. It's basically a broom closet, really, is all it is, with a bunch of foam on the walls. So those of you watching, that's what's with all of the weird gray foam on the walls behind me. Welcome to the conversation. I'm excited about this week's episode. We are diving deep into the nostalgia of video games. Some of the questions that we've been throwing out on our Facebook group have been getting some interesting conversations going about this very topic, retro gaming, not the least of which is a question I'm going to be scrolling along the bottom here. If you guys are watching live, feel free to drop a comment. What was your first experience with video games? Your very first experience that you remember that got you like maybe hooked on video games or got you interested in video games, or maybe like, this is not for me. This is not my thing. That's totally cool too. But what was your first experience? Leave a comment below and we might use it in the show. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you drop a quick link over to StreamYard.com/Facebook to make sure that your name can get up there so we know who's talking. And join the conversation. Let us know. Video games, classic retro stuff. What's your favorite game? What's the one that you just still haven't beat to this day? All those kind of comments and conversations. We're going to be diving deep into that this week and living the dream, right? So let's bring our panel in. Christian is here this week. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. I don't have another wing, but I'm doing okay.
You don't need a wing. Trust me. It's way more hassle than it's worth. I shuffled stuff.
Is that why Bruce Wayne's always so grumpy? Because
that's exactly why. He's got so much crap. He's got to shuffle around his space. That's, you'd think he would have people to do like, pay people to do that. Right. He's got Alfred. So Alfred's probably the grumpiest guy in Wayne Manor.
I mean, that's why Alfred's so swole, because he's just carrying stuff around Wayne Manor all the time.
Is he swole?
Yeah, dude. Alfred's canonically
new Alfred is kind of swole, isn't he?
Yeah.
I keep thinking, whenever I think Alfred, I don't know why, but I
picture the George Clooney Alfred, the old guy
George Clooney. I mean, it's the same actor, yes, but no, Michael Keaton, like that whole, yeah. I mean, I think for him, or I think Michael Caine. Michael Caine wasn't swole.
No,
but in Gotham, you're right. That dude like kicked ass.
Even
right?
Jeremy Irons in.
That's true. Jeremy Irons is pretty legit. So
yeah.
And then of course, Alberto is with us this week. Alberto, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Speaking of swole, Alberto's showing off the guns.
Showing off the guns with that tank.
He's gonna get us taken down from Facebook,
right?
No, it's
not that kind of show, sir.
It gets really musty in the basement, so I have to wear tank top.
I'll bet it does. I bet it does.
See, look, if you
get your mind out of the gutter, gentlemen, I don't know what you're thinking. No, that's exactly where I was going.
If you read my text messages, the last text message I wrote to Ariella, which was minutes ago, I said, should I wear a tank top or should I change it to a t-shirt? Because I felt that someone's going to comment on it.
And that's the first thing.
That's the first thing that happened.
There it is.
Nothing but love, Alberto. Nothing but love.
Now you know. And then last but not least, I think my brother's going to be showing up with us. Joe isn't going to be able to make it this week, but he sends his love. He wishes he could be here. And then, of course, our good friend Bobby. How are you, sir?
Hey, everyone. How you doing
today?
What
in the world is that behind you? Every week you got something different, dude. What is that?
I am in one of the levels of Chrono Trigger from Super Nintendo.
Okay. As I just blasted everybody's ears out with the
So every week, if you're watching us online, I try to switch up my background.
You're having a lot of fun with that green screen, dude.
So I am. So right now, if you're watching, I have one of the levels of Chrono Trigger, one of the cave levels from the dinosaur era. That was on Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo. And then it came to the PlayStation.
And ported over to Apple.
And all that. Yeah, it was on. We'll dive into that. But everyone's week was okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Up and nods and all that. We're still here. Surviving 2021 so far. So,
Man. Just trying to survive this week in particular,
for
man.
real.
Yeah.
For real.
I gave up caffeine and alcohol for church because for their So
How's
7
that going
days.
for you?
7 days strong so far.
All right.
Decaf.
All
So
right.
decaf, lots of water.
That caffeine, I don't know that I could do that. As I grab a can of Monster and start drinking it.
The first 2 days were hard. The first 2 days I had.
I've never understood decaf coffee.
Me either. Christian, we
don't
are
like-
definitely simpatico on this, dude.
I don't like coffee to begin with, but I've never understood.
Oh,
decaf
nobody
coffee.
does. And to
No,
start with.
it's
Nobody
more,
starts out drinking coffee because they love the taste. Nobody does. That's why
That's
you
true,
dump
actually.
all kinds of creamer and sugar and caramel and chocolate and all that crap in there because nobody really likes this taste of straight coffee at first.
Yeah,
And then I grow
decaf
it.
coffees. I wonder if it's more just a like a mental thing, like to trick your body into thinking that you're still drinking coffee.
a
I got
little bit
two-
of that. Sorry, Alberto, you go. You tell them.
I was gonna say I got two answers, and it's only because my grandmother drinks decaf just because she's too old and can't have caffeine.
Right.
So that's option one. Option two was there was one night where it was like midnight, and I'm like, I really crave the taste of like coffee with some like soy milk in it, but I don't want to be awake for the next 4 hours. So let me just have decaf, and then I can fall asleep at least in an hour or something.
So
But I've only done that one time. After that, I was like, that was weird. I'm just gonna go back to regular caffeine.
yeah, no, decaf coffee has always boggled my mind because it goes against everything that I believe in as a coffee drinker. Like people, as they already established, start drinking coffee because they want the caffeine
Right.
and they hate the taste, which is why they dump all that crap in
It's
it.
like
And then
getting,
decaf
like,
coffee is the opposite of that. It's saying, hey, I now actually want the taste, but I don't
Yeah.
want the caffeine.
no.
It's the exact opposite of what coffee is supposed to be all
It's
about.
like getting unsweet chocolate. Like defeats the
Yes.
entire purpose of it.
What's
Yes,
the point of that?
I am.
It's like going out hunting with your buddies, but you put blanks in your gun.
Yeah.
Like you look like you're doing exactly the same thing as everybody else, but you got bubkiss in there, buddy. You're doing nothing. It does no good.
It's putting all your clothes in the washing machine and turning it on, but not letting it run any water.
Like what's the point? That's my decaf coffee rant. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's about as close as being un-American as you can get when it comes to coffee. Yeah, maybe
Fair.
not. But
I don't know.
I don't know.
Took it a little
I
too far there, Dan.
It goes against everything I believe in as an American.
Aye, sir. Anyways,
Sure.
retro gaming. How about
I'm
that?
going to get hate mail for that. I know I am. That came out wrong. I don't care. Okay, moving on. Oh, Andrew's here. Good God. What
What's
are you
up?
doing? Of course you would be here for this conversation. You made it into the.
Andrew, does decaf coffee make sense to you? Yes or no?
All right.
Simple.
Hey,
I've been listening to this backstage. I have my own opinions.
I'm going to let Alberto's significant other chime in here and say she took it even one step further. She's not saying it's not only un-American, it's straight up sinful. Decaf, absolutely, I'm with you there, Ari. I could
All right.
not agree more.
Yeah,
So-
And I love it when I bring that graphic up. It covers Andrew's face.
Yeah,
That's
I bet you do.
fantastic.
She's,
Love
she's
it.
a coffee
Just
fiend though. Like
leave that there.
Like I'm pretty sure half of the blood that runs through her veins are just brown, just colored brown, just from all the coffee.
I'm going to say very few words about this.
And we're done. Okay.
America doesn't know how to drink good coffee.
No, they don't. No, I
Coffee
would
has
agree with
always
you there.
been beans that are overburnt. Like dark roast should not be a thing in the world of coffee. Coffee should not be burnt. So,
Dark roast is like the dude went, crap, I burnt him.
yep.
What are
let's
we
just
going to
call it
do with
dark
this?
roast. Yep.
We don't want to ruin.
So-
we need to sell this still. Oh,
even
let's just call it a dark
most
roast.
like Caribou coffee, Starbucks coffee, Dunkin', whatever, light roast would be considered a dark roast in the world of like true coffee connoisseurs. So
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say. People don't like coffee because they haven't tried actual good coffee that you can taste the different flavor profiles because it's all
True.
burnt out.
I apologize for asking. And moving on.
Moving on. And now we're 20 minutes into the program and we haven't even talked about it. It's all coffee stuff. Hey, I love coffee though. That's okay. Retro gaming. That's what we're talking about. We actually threw out a poll on the Facebook group about what was the first official console that you remember being your connection to gaming and video games. And here are the results. We had a tie for number one between the Atari 2600 and the Nintendo NES Famicom system. And then after that, it just kind of dwindles down. We got the Sega Genesis Mega Drive. The Intellivision made it on there, which was amazing. PlayStation. I don't know about those people. NES or Super Nintendo, excuse me, SNES, and then the N64. And Alberto voted on that. N64?
Yes, sir.
Wow. We'll get to that. I think we're going to be bringing that up in the conversation. But first conversation to get things going, your earliest gaming memory. What is it? Alberto, you didn't give us a picture.
I did. It's in the slide.
I'm not seeing it. Is it on the slide?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to reload this? Did you literally just post it like 2 seconds ago?
I did.
That's why I don't see it.
You remember in school when like those teachers would be like, hand in your papers and stuff? Yeah, I'd be writing in my last answers as everyone's handing.
You were that kid, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep being
that kid. You are that kid. All right, here we are. Look at that. Look at that. Everyone's like, I would if you would show me.
Yeah, we don't see anything.
Yeah, here it is. The N64 and Pokemon Stadium. Alberto, what are we looking at here for those listening? What is this exactly? This isn't just a Nintendo 64. What is this?
Right. So I tried looking everywhere online to try to find this specific kiosk that is engraved in my memory, but I'm starting to think I made it up in my imagination. There was a Nintendo 64 kiosk stand that was from Best Buy. I remember being, I think, 4 or 5 years old, and it was this huge, really tall kiosk. You would have to look up, and maybe it's because of the height of that I was at that age, but you had to look up just to even see the TV screen. And installed into it, or rather the cartridge that was plugged into it, was Pokemon Stadium. Up until that point, I watched a little bit of the anime, and I saw my cousins play on the Game Boy, which is like the regular Game Boy. And I never had a game console. My parents never grew up with game consoles, so the idea of getting game consoles and the ideas of like, oh, this was a fun experience for me growing up, that just didn't exist.
So is this like Walmart and that sort of thing? Like, where was your like go-to place for doing this?
My go-to place was every single time we went to go grocery shopping. That was mine and my sister's real first experience into video games. No one in our
there was this.
How did they have video games at the grocery store?
So Target and Walmart and Best Buy used to have all kiosks, all of them, and
they used to be built into the video game areas. Like screens would be like up at the top.
So they go grocery shopping at Walmart.
So while the parents went grocery shopping, my sister and I would just walk on over to the media section, and we just get to play for the next half hour or something. That and the kiosk from McDonald's, the ones with the greasy.
I remember those.
Those were our introductions into video games because we didn't have a system, and no one in our family had a system. This was really our way of just being able to play games. To us, we didn't even know home consoles really was a thing. We kind of still thought these were just like newer arcade machines that they put into like stores because no one told us about video game consoles. And then one day I saw that big old box. That's not my box. I wish that I actually didn't throw out my box, but when you're a kid, you don't think about keeping cardboard boxes.
Nobody does. No.
And that was the box I got for my 5th birthday, along with the purple see-through controller. It came with a transfer pack, so you can play Pokemon Red and Blue on the big screen and Pokemon Yellow on there with like double the speed. And then I still got my original cartridge, and on it says, "This game pack belongs to a bunch of scribbles, Alberto and Anna," in really bad handwriting. It looks like it was written by someone with their left hand with their eyes closed. And that was my earliest memory of me actually enjoying it, and not just being a backseat gamer, but like being actively in it. I remember being at Best Buy, and the first time I played, I chose like a water Pokemon. I went up against a fire type. I didn't know about the whole type differences. I did a water move, and it did super effective. And there was a certain sound effect that like would go, and the game announcer would be like, "Oh, that was super effective." When that happened as a kid, I heard it. I did, but that power felt awesome, and I want to do that again, and I want to feel that again. I want this game so bad, and that was the thing that sold it for me. The Pika Cup.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
I got a picture here of if I can bring it up, the that McDonald's thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Find it.
I remember how
Dude, those things
greasy those felt.
I mean, imagine how many illnesses got spread based on
yeah.
those things.
Oh, I'm sure. I
Our
have no
immune
doubt of
system
that
will-
now.
But just for your own sanity, Alberto, you did not fever dream that. I do vividly remember that same exact kiosk as
God.
well.
Dude, nobody I know remembers that. I'm just like, was that an imagination?
No, dude,
Did I
the
just-
Pokemon Stadium one, man, was so good.
Okay, thank God.
You guys and your
remember.
Pokemon, I swear, I really don't get it.
Listen,
But-
man.
Because you're a
Listen,
boomer,
man.
man.
I'm a boomer? Oh, don't even get me started. But I do remember this. I do remember
Oh yeah.
the
Those-
whole kiosk thing with the two N64 controllers, and those were legit.
With those
They had like a
nasty
timer on them though, or something like that.
I don't
Well,
know.
how did you
No.
guarantee that kids weren't like dominating the whole thing the entire time? I guess I can't remember.
You didn't. People just
They
didn't-
dominated it
people,
the whole
Yeah,
time.
people didn't abandon their kids for hours on end like they do nowadays.
There
I
was
want one
one.
of these so bad though.
You
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
one of them?
That'd be so
Yeah.
cool.
Like
Oh, that'd
just
be
in
so
your
cool,
house?
man.
Where would you
Yeah.
put that? Come on. That thing's
the
Dan,
ginormous.
you're telling me that you wouldn't love to have that in your man cave for a
I-
6-person Mario Kart game setup?
What? No. Where would you put that?
Anywhere.
Dude,
In the
if you had the
bedroom.
chance to get this for free, you would 100%
Oh, for
take it.
free? Yeah.
If I had the
would,
chance to get that
sure.
for $50, I would still do it.
Yeah, probably.
Totally.
There's a price for everything, right? Next, Andrew,
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
You
That's
like
the
how
first
the picture,
the first experience, the first memory you have is Duck Hunt.
I mean, it's that and Mario Brothers, but I remember
Okay.
playing both of them. We had the combo cart. I love how in this picture the person's holding an actual gun.
They are holding an actual gun. That's not a Nintendo gun. That's a
No.
legit gun. Why did you
Excuse me.
you
excuse
put that
Wait,
picture in there?
wait, is that not you, Andrew?
me. No, that's not me. No.
Oh,
Andrew
I
is
thought that
most
was
just found a random
definitely a
I thought
pre-pubescent
that was a
girl
leg-
with a
I thought that
gun.
was-
That's
wait,
for
that's
sure.
a girl.
Yep, it's
Oh.
definitely a
Yeah, I don't know.
12-year-old
Anyway, we're
girl
getting
with
way
a gun.
off.
I mean, to be fair, I just looked at it from far away, and I thought that was immediately like a home picture somebody took of Andrew playing Duck Hunt.
I wish
I
I,
can-
had, I
I
wish
can
I had
understand the
picture.
confusion. I can very much understand the confusion.
Yeah. So Daniel and I are brothers. Everyone knows that.
What?
Our aunt Shelly
We're still debating.
gave us for Christmas, I think, right? An
Yeah,
NES.
yep, that was for Christmas.
And I was like preschool, not even preschool, 4 years old, 3 years old. But I remember on the days that I had preschool, I could play Nintendo. And I mean, I remember as in preschool, like beating Mario Brothers all the way through World 8. It was like just the best. And then, when you got bored of that, you played Duck Hunt. So, yeah.
And you always tried to shoot the dog because
And you always like took the gun and literally put it right next to the screen, like that,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
right next to the screen.
Oh
trying-
yeah, you're like straight up
Mhm.
point blank range, and you still
Yep.
suck. So,
Oh, it didn't work. Have you heard of the light bulb trick?
no.
There's debate whether it actually works or not, but you can take a gun and I don't have a lamp in here, but use a lamp and point the gun at the lamp, and it'll shoot the duck perfectly every time.
What?
There's debate whether it's true or not, but
I'm
apparently
curious.
some people
Feel
claim
like
that
we
they've
need
been
to
able
try
to
this.
make it work. So
I mean, I wouldn't be
I don't
surprised
know
if it
that
was
I
some
that.
sort of weird, like, refractory business with
Yeah.
the pixels and stuff. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but that's definitely my first memory. I don't remember.
I don't see how that would work technology wise because it's not syncing up with the actual CRT circuit that needs to be complete. And that's mumbo jumbo. I don't believe that for a
Little
second.
do people know that with light gun games, for us like one frame, the entire screen goes black,
Or white.
or
white.
white, except for the spot that I think you shoot, or something like that.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's how it can tell what you shot.
the whole hit marker thing in it.
So if you go back and play a light gun game, you'll pay attention. You'll see the screen, like if you're really paying attention, you can see it go black for like
It'll
one
flicker.
frame.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is part of the reason why the light gun stuff has never really caught on huge and hasn't been very successful ever since CRTs died. Like the
Yeah,
old
but
tube
now-
TVs, the tech just doesn't.
There's new technology. I forget what it's called.
I forget too, but it's amazing.
It's a new technology where you can, on a flat screen TV, use a light gun, and it's
Right, and the new arcade one-up cabinets and stuff, they've got like a
they
hunting
utilize
one
that.
now.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
very
mind-boggling.
cool.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it, but that's the future.
Black
Bobby,
magic.
yours is pretty common here. I think a lot of people are going to share this. It was the number one of the number ones.
1986.
1986 Nintendo Entertainment System.
I woke up Christmas Day, 1986, with a brand new big tube screen TV and Super Mario Brothers ready to go for me to play as
It was
soon
ready
as I
to
woke
go.
up.
You
Ready
woke
to
up,
go.
ran downstairs, and it
Nice.
was there waiting for you.
Well, I lived in an apartment,
That's
so
awesome.
right across. So I
That's
woke
cool.
up and it's just right there playing Super Mario Brothers. And I remember playing it, and we had Mike Tyson's Punch Out with it, and and Duck Hunt. Those were the two first games we owned. And I remember going to Euclid Video. So back in the day, all you youngins, we had to go to a physical store to rent video games.
To rent a game? What is renting,
And
Mr.
then we have
Bobby?
to physically return the game.
And if you didn't return it on time,
We got charged extra.
Is that like a red
box?
If you don't return it on time, you go to a different location, set up a new account there,
Oh,
and then rack up late fees there instead. I'm the reason why
you just
Family Video
transition
is
over
gone.
to a new one, so you never have
Yeah.
to pay that late.
I'm the sole reason Family Video went out of business. All my late fees in my 4 different accounts. That's it.
Alberto, you are that guy.
I
You're the
was that
reason
guy.
Family Video is dead, right? Because
I was that guy.
all the late fees. Yeah.
that's funny.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure there was a few copies of movies that I had from Blockbuster that I found when I moved and was like, oh, I never brought this back, did I?
You could have been a
I
hero.
guess I can't now. Now it's mine.
Yeah.
So
Could have been a hero,
Yeah.
Dan.
You're
That
the
morning-
reason Blockbuster went out of business then, Dan.
I'm the reason Blockbuster went out of business. Yeah.
I will say
Me
this, though,
and Netflix.
I miss like that warm, homey feeling of like going in and renting a game or a movie. There was just something about that, just walking in there. It was
And the
a
discovery.
huge- yeah,
Like a
there's-
Friday night, getting out of school, going to rent a game to play.
Couple
for the weekend.
movies and a game.
Yeah.
That felt awesome. It felt awesome.
And the
yeah.
discovery of like all of the good games got taken,
Oh yeah.
And
So you had
so-
to find something new.
So you had to
but there was
find
no
something
internet
super
to know
random.
what the game was. So
Yeah.
like,
Not
this-
unless you had the power. Nintendo
Nintendo
Power
Power.
magazine, and you subscribed to that magazine, then you knew what was up.
Did any of you subscribe to like
Maybe.
Nintendo Power or any of those magazines?
I did.
Bobby did.
I subscribed to the PlayStation magazine for a few months, and then my parents were like, "Wait, what did you sign us up for?" And then we just canceled.
oh no.
Get upset.
Somebody got in trouble.
Yes, sir.
Crazy. Next, Christian.
So I threw 2 up there because
This is I noticed that you got
because Duck Hunt is the first game I have a memory of playing at all. Period.
Okay.
But Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the first game I actually remember playing through like from start to finish.
That was a good one too.
Like I was the
Good
first
one.
game I remember my aunt got it for me for Christmas or
So-
1 year.
So talking Zelda, then I'm just curious. Very unscientific poll. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
Oh, you're about
Are
to
we-
have the big one.
3D Zelda or
knew.
2D Zelda? 3D open world or 2D top down? Which one do you prefer as a format for a
Well,
Zelda game?
Only open world 3D is the newest one.
Yeah.
All of the other
yes and
Zeldas
no.
aren't. No, they aren't open world, man.
They're
Like,
not.
there's
They're
a
not
very
true open
designated-
world. I know they're not true open world, but they're still like run around.
Sure,
and
there's like
explore the
some
world.
side quests you can do. and
Just
stuff,
because you
but-
gotta go load up a screen in order to get into the next area, it's still
I would say
Open,
2D.
so.
I would say 2D Zelda.
really okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I never really played too many of the 3D Zelda games.
Okay.
Well, no, I guess I'm thinking here. I guess technically, like Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time are both 3D. So
Mhm.
I would say, you know what? No, I would say 3D Zelda.
Did
Okay.
you ever play
I'm gonna
Wind
change-
Waker?
Not as much as I played it much more later in life, like after it had already been out for a long time. And I'm actually in the process right now of playing through the remastered Link's Awakening on the Switch.
Yeah, I was wondering about that
That is
one.
a really good
That's
one.
a good one.
Yeah, it's funny.
Um,
It's funny how much your brain remembers, but you don't remember remembering until
Yeah.
you're playing through it again. Then you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this. I remember this. Like
Mhm.
it's just weird.
Alberto, what about you? 2D or 3D
Um,
Zelda?
I'm super conflicted because, I remember having the most fun with 3D ones, but at the same time, I've only really beaten the 2D ones, like Link's Awakening DX for the Game Boy, like the original, or I guess Game Boy Color when they made it in color.
Mhm.
Link to the Past and the 3DS reboot or sequel, I guess, with Link Between Worlds. All of those are probably one of my most favorite Zelda experiences, but they're all 2D. But my favorite moments were definitely like Breath of the Wild when like 3 creatures are all coming at me at the exact same time, and I know my sword's gonna break, so I only have a few hits left. So I try to do a few dodges, kill someone, grab their spear real quick, do a jab, and like those moments right there just shine above the rest of the game for me. So it's really mixed, but
Make a decision.
if I had to pick for sure.
Your personal favorite format of the game.
I think 3D.
3D. You're going
Yeah.
3D. Okay.
You guys ready for a hot take?
Yes.
Breath of the Wild is
always
not a Zelda game.
Whoa. That's about to be
It's a new
whole episode
format
right there.
for a Zelda game.
Yeah, it is. It is not a Zelda game.
I
It
will
does
say
not-
this though.
It doesn't
It is-
follow any of the.
Totally understand where you're going there,
It
and
does
I
not follow
don't
any
disagree.
of the base trajectory points of a Zelda game.
I forgot to bring
There's,
this up
there's
earlier.
no like you have to do this in order to do this in order to do this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and that's the
Mhm.
whole point of like, I don't know if there's going to be a future of Zelda games that do that unless if they
Yeah.
keep making 2D Zelda games, because it seems like it's kind of hard to make a 2D Zelda game without that formula.
Yeah.
But like Breath of the Wild 2 is just going to be more of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Um,
Which honestly, I played about 5 hours of Breath of the Wild. It just didn't hold me.
Well, it's basically taking the action RPG fantasy that has existed for decades and slapping a Zelda skin on it. Basically,
Yeah.
is
But
what
I
it is.
guess for me, the thing that always enticed
But
me
you
about
can
Zelda
climb. Ooh.
was always the Metroidvania aspect of it. That you need to go to this place
Right,
first, to get
yeah.
this, to go to the next
Yep.
place to unlock. Like
That's exactly
that
it.
always
Yep.
screams Zelda to me.
And but with Breath of the Wild, and I don't have a Switch. The only way I got to experience Breath of the Wild was watching other people play it on YouTube. So I know all the ins and outs of that game. You could go through the whole storyline, could go to XYZ and follow it, but the whole point of the open world is you can be creative and play it in different ways. and try to beat the game early or try to go to different, see how the game interacts with you
Yeah.
before you do X,
Which-
Y, Z.
Bobby, which one do you prefer as far as styles of games? Do you prefer
I'm
3D
just gonna
Zelda or
say-
2D?
I played them all. I'm going to just say top down because those are the ones that I beat the most. Those were my first experiences. So Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda game.
Mhm.
That's a good one.
So
Cool.
I will say that Link to the Past is such a like weird game because there are some very minute things that you have to do in order to progress. Like, I've never beaten Link to the Past, but I'm in the process of beating it. And like one time I had to look stuff up because it was like, okay, there's water. I drained it from this temple, and now I can't get to where I need to go. And you have to go to the far top right of the map.
Oh, are you in the dark world where you have to unload? Where you had to, you had to use your mirror, go to the Mirrorverse,
Yes.
drain the
Mhm.
swamp, and then go
It's-
back to the Mirrorverse to play the
it's-
actual level.
Yeah, it's so like it's not just draining it though. After you drain it, then once you get in,
Yeah.
you can't beat the whole temple without like going to the top right. I think it's the thing in order to be able to swim in water.
Yep.
Mhm.
Whatever.
Yep, you gotta get
whatever.
that.
You gotta get
And
the
it-
flippers.
Yeah, you got to go to like the top right and do some weird thing that like I would have
Yep.
never thought to do.
Well, that's the thing I love. And when we go into Super Nintendo, well, why we love our special systems, I felt, with the exception of Metroid, I felt playing Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I
Mhm.
knew what I was doing because if you listen to all the NPCs, non-playable characters,
Mhm.
and you listen to
tell
what
you.
they say,
Yeah,
they
they
tell
tell
you
you.
what to
Yep.
do.
Okay, maybe I
So
just was impatient.
That's what you have
And
to
to be
kinda-
fair, like the original Legend
Oh,
of Zelda on the
The
NES
original
was
one gave no direction.
absolutely puzzle after puzzle after puzzle, and they gave you nothing.
I
They gave
miss
you
that.
nothing. You had to
I
figure it
miss
out.
that about gaming. I'm tired of the
Totally agree.
you get a quest and there's a
Totally
little
agree.
compass at the top of your screen points you to every single thing you need to do.
Sure, man.
Right. We
Yeah.
become dependent on it now. It's
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
how am I supposed I don't know what to do. You got to tell me what to do. Give me a little marker and an icon. And in Zelda and a lot of those old school games, you couldn't just like skip through the dialogue because that was telling you exactly what you were supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're
And more
supposed to remember it.
Right. And more often
Remember
than
it.
not, the compass and all that stuff can get overwhelming because then you accept too
Yeah.
many quests and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you just have all these different markers. Like,
Oh,
that's why I
everywhere,
was
yeah.
never able to beat The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Because like
There's
the
just too
first,
much.
the first major city you go in, there's just like 37 exclamation points on the map saying there's all
Right.
these quests you can do.
Mm.
And the completionist in me is sitting here like I want to do all of these.
Yep.
And so you're just
Yep.
like you get
But
overwhelmed.
Zelda games are puzzles. Like
Yeah.
they've puzzle
Yeah.
after puzzle after puzzle. I'm working.
Mhm.
I put up something on the Facebook group about how I'm working on this table. I'm doing a Zelda theme with it. And one of my friends from back in college was like, if that drawer doesn't have some kind of a puzzle you have to figure out in order to open it,
Oh yeah.
it's not really a Zelda table. I'm like, dude, that's so genius. Now I'm
Oh, yeah.
racking my brain. What kind of puzzle can I throw in there, even as simple as it is, to make sure that it's an extra step that has to be there just to open the stinking drawer because it's
Yeah.
a Zelda table. It's got to have a puzzle in it. So
Yeah.
totally agree with you there, Bobby. Andrew, top down,
Yeah.
3D.
I'm
What do
gonna
you
say
think?
3D only because of Breath of the Wild. Why are you get so mad at my opinions? You get so
Only
upset.
because of Breath of the Wild,
Listen, because
the one Zelda game that is the
No,
least
no,
like
no.
any
I'm
Zelda
not-
game
No,
ever.
let
him
The one
talk.
that you're using to
talk.
say.
I'm not
I'm shaking
saying
my head.
that I'm not saying that Breath of the Wild is the only reason. I'm saying that Breath of the Wild takes it over the top where like you've got all of this traditional Zelda games, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, right? And they're all
Mhm.
3D. And technically, if you want to consider it, you can do Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks are technically 3D. Well, I guess they're kind of like a 2.5.
Yeah, kind of like the remake of Link's Awakening 2.5.
Right. Yeah, but that's like
whatever
a
you call it.
2D game. Okay, fine. I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Or the Four
But-
Seasons one.
Right. But you've got like
Four Sword
Here's-
Adventures.
I haven't played that yet. But
good.
you've got all of your traditional Zelda stuff, and then you also have this, in my opinion, incredible open world game where you can do whatever you want and play the way that I think Alberta was saying, or was it Bobby, that like
Yeah, I was saying you can
Yeah.
you can follow it. You can follow the tradition, listen to NPCs, and go
Right.
step by step.
Yeah.
Or you can learn how to do everything and try to skip levels, and you can go
Yeah.
to the end of the game after your tutorial.
And also Breath of the Wild for me, I was playing that game when I was in a really crappy job. And Breath of the Wild was just a thing for me to be able to do to like enjoy like part of my
It
day.
was an escape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get that.
And it was
I get
just
that.
so perfect for me. It was exactly what I needed at the time. So
That's
um,
rose-colored glasses on most of them. Looking back at it.
I mean, I still love the game. So
Yeah, but I'm saying it helps your mindset when you remember it
Yeah.
a little more fondly than you might have if you played it at any other point in your life. Doesn't mean
Yeah,
it's not
maybe.
a bad. Doesn't mean it's not a
Sure,
good game. Just
Right. Yeah, but I still love the 2D games. I mean, I remember when I first saw Zelda on NES, and I was just like, because we had an NES, and I was like, I have to get this game. But our parents would not allow us to get it because they were like monsters and like
Well,
deep.
it's fantasy, so you're slaying monsters. and
I thought you,
oceans
said, I
and
thought you
all
were
that
saying
stuff.
because your parents were monsters. I was
No,
like,
no, no, my
"Jeez."
parents are fine. But they like my parents when we were kids growing up. were
You
really-
monster! You won't let me get Zelda! You're a monster! Not
growing
quite.
up, we weren't allowed to do a lot of things.
I probably thought that in my mind a couple times. But
Yeah,
but
not going to
not-
say that on a publicly podcast.
no, my
No,
parents
no.
are fine. No, they're not monsters.
no, they're not. Cool. Well,
Dan,
my
what about you?
official ruling is 2D top down for sure.
What 2D? What? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, how could you not pick 1D? One dimension.
Please
single lines.
explain for a second
How-
here.
how could you not
Alberto,
pick
what is
Zelda
1D?
2?
1D is a
Yeah,
single
that one's
dot.
side scroller and top down.
Yeah. Come on, man.
No, top down is Zelda. Like the Link to the Past. There has yet to be a Zelda game that comes out that comes anywhere near being even remotely as good as that game is.
Oh,
So,
Oh, that's
oh,
fighting words since then, dude.
oh.
yeah,
I-
okay.
I
I'll fight you all day long. It's
I would
the
say-
best Zelda game
I
for
would say
sure.
the sequel for the 3DS, Link Between Worlds. Honestly, for the longest time, Link to the Past was my favorite, but the sequel in the 3DS
Oh, it's
kept-
fantastic.
kept the love and charm from the
Yeah,
original and
it's
added
really
like
good.
added that extra kind of like one-dimensional or 2D side-scrolling platforming thing with like the extra like abilities and the new boss and everything.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say-
It's fantastic. They're great. Top down is Zelda for me. I mean, that's just.
I mean, yeah, I feel you. I'm literally even.
Don't get me
just
wrong.
thinking
I
about,
like the 3D ones. Ocarina of Time was great. It's probably the best
got some
3D
great
one in my mind.
memories
I mean,
about Ocarina
Breath of
of
the
Time.
Wild. I've played through it a little bit more than most people probably would think I have.
It's
I've
funny.
enjoyed it, but again, kind of going back to Christian, it definitely doesn't feel like a Zelda game.
Yeah,
It doesn't. It feels,
it feels like Skyrim Zelda skin.
Skyrim meets Zelda, or it feels like,
But isn't that what Zelda is? I
No.
mean,
Zelda is puzzle solving. It's dungeon crawling. It's
right,
it's finding something to help you get through the next area.
right.
I didn't feel like literally. I think I went through the one dungeon in Breath of the Wild, but like you, Bobby, I watched a lot of Breath of the Wild playthroughs. Every dungeon just looked so repetitive, and every boss was just Ganon.
Yeah,
Like there
And
was no
it also-
variety.
Breath of the Wild also released not too far after Horizon Zero Dawn, which I was loving playing as well.
Yes.
And it
Such
was
a good
like,
game.
this feels very much like that.
Yeah.
Like they took what worked in that and just threw the Zelda skin on it. And
Well, in my defense, Zelda was supposed to come out before, but there was major
I get it.
delays.
Yeah, I know. And to their credit, they came out with a game that was, not
My
bugged,
first-
not full of bugs, which is good.
Imagine a game getting delayed and then coming out finished. Wow.
Imagine
What?
that. What?
Wow.
first-
Also, last thing with Breath of the Wild, I know we're not talking retro, but that game put me over in 3D as well because of my experience of playing it with my kids. It's the first Zelda game I played with my kids, and I will say there is a ton of puzzle solving in Breath of the Wild. Just
Mhm.
not the same puzzle solving that you guys are used to with traditional Zelda, but
Right.
there's so many times where I'm like I can't figure out what you're supposed to do. And my
Right.
kids, who at the time were like 5 years old, were like, "Oh, you're supposed to do this," and they were right. And I'm just like,
Try this,
What?
Dad.
"Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, those of you listening, those of you watching, leave us a comment. Throw a message in the comments or on the Facebook page. What kind of Zelda format do you like the most? What's your thought? Maybe we'll put a poll out there. That would be good. That's a good poll.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good pull."
Maybe
Um,
even just favorite Zelda game as a poll.
Favorite Zelda game? Which one?
Yeah.
Which format? And that'll give us an answer right there. Which
Yeah.
formats people prefer? So
My first Zelda game was Majora's Mask, and
So good.
that was not the best game to start your entire Zelda.
Majora's
journey.
Mask. No.
Majora's Mask
Probably
that has
the
a
worst
time
game
that
to
has a
start.
time limit, a time limit that you keep dying if you don't finish. And I didn't
Yeah,
know
you're
the Song of
screwed.
Time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
didn't
are
know the
so
Song of Time.
screwed.
I died, and it's this exact copy, and I was almost done with the game. And since this is a cartridge-based game, the something in it just starts to reset really
The
randomly.
battery died probably.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and if you don't save, and if you turn off the game, it starts you back over at the beginning of the 3-day cycle.
Yeah.
So I lost all my progress 4 times.
Oh.
After that, I was like, you know what?
Oh,
I'm never gonna beat this game.
I just wouldn't.
I'm gonna-
I just
Best
stop
stuff.
there, dude.
But
I
it's
wouldn't
funny
be like,
because
I'm
like,
done
that
with this
game
game.
is so good, but
Yeah.
not for your first
Yes.
Zelda game.
No.
No. But Alberto, you brought up a huge part of retro gaming, and the problem of the future of retro gaming is all of these cartridges have, batteries in them for saving your data,
Yep.
No.
and what the issue also with this is one of the things I don't like about Nintendo is they went hardcore against emulation. Even
though some of the content that they threw out on like the Wii and the
is
Wii
from an
Store
emulation. Yeah.
showed up that
Yeah.
it was emulation. You're right.
Yeah. But
I-
Emu Paradise, which was the biggest emulation website, you can't get ROMs on there anymore because Nintendo shut them down. And so it's the future of retro gaming is going to be emulation if you want to play these games in
Yeah.
20 years from now. But
Because physical media won't exist anymore.
yeah, the worry is what's going to happen to these systems, to these cartridges. That's why there's new systems that are coming out that can play old cartridges. So it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be companies that will be able to officially potentially license new cartridges of old games. Limited Run has done that for a couple games. They did a Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer and
Mhm.
a couple different Star Wars cartridge-based games, and so it'll be interesting to see if that'll be a major thing in the future or what it's going to look like.
And that's why earlier I also asked you, because I keep all my games in bins, like I mentioned before, my cartridge games. Exactly for that, I'm worried about the pins deteriorating. I'm worried about
Yeah.
the heat or the cold messing up something inside of it.
Alberto,
And
that's why you need to get a friend who knows how to repair those things and replace the batteries.
I feel like this is like a sponsored message right now with Dan.
For real though, no, seriously, I totally hear all. It is like a really crappy part of living out the actual physical hardware classic retro gaming stuff.
Mhm.
You have to learn how to do that, or at
Yeah.
least know someone who does if you want to be able to enjoy them. And I got a few original Game Boy and Game Boy Color games and Game Boy Advance games like dirt cheap because the battery inside them was dead, and they aren't nearly as worth what their real value is. So I bought them dirt cheap, bought some batteries online, and just soldered them in there, and now they work great. They work fine, and it's not that hard. So I'll hook you up, Boo.
Please and thank you.
Yeah.
I know maintenance and cleaning, but when it comes to anything with solder guns or the soldering iron,
Soldering iron, yeah,
yeah, that
not
thing in
that hard.
particular.
It's not that hard. Just takes a steady hand. That's all. The last
we on your
one
first
here,
memory, Dan?
I think that's the last one here for this
Oh, yeah.
conversation. My first experience and memory playing a video game
Oh yeah.
was playing Pitfall on the Atari 2600.
260.
What?
It says Atari 260. You missed the
Oh,
second zero.
why does it do that? Why did it do that?
That actually does fit with retro gaming being like misprinted on cartridge labels.
That actually is kind of funny. You're right. Why did it do? I swear to God, I said it right, but
What
must
was
have bumped it over.
what was the old game that was like Pitfall? It was like Indiana Jones meets Pitfall, where you're like the explorer guy, like jumping over the pits and stuff.
Are you sure it's not Pitfall?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Sounds like Pitfall.
it is 2600. But the picture of that's what happened. I did type it in there right, but the graphic was covering up the last
Christian,
zero.
are you talking about it's on the 2600?
I don't know. I don't remember what console it was on. I just remember playing it. I don't remember. I remember it being slightly better graphics than.
Well, Pitfall had come out a few different times.
Maybe
on a few
I'm
different
thinking of
consoles.
like a later generation Pitfall.
Was it maybe the
Atari
sequel?
2600. There is ColecoVision's version, which is way better. The ColecoVision had better graphics for sure. And then it came out on the NES and all that stuff too, eventually. But
Didn't they make a sequel too?
and Pitfall 2. Yep.
Super Nintendo also had a Pitfall, the Mayan Adventures, and it was just your
Right.
standard 2D side-scrolling
Like a platforming kind of deal.
platformer. Yeah.
But this game, like, we never had an Atari growing up.
No.
I remember this game because went to on my mom's side. We went to like a family like Christmas or Thanksgiving deal, and our uncle had an Atari and a Nintendo. And first he busted out the Atari, and this is what was on there. And I remember like my mind was blown that this little controller thing that the guy that he was holding was
Yeah.
controlling the TV. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You're using that thing to control the TV and what's happening on the TV, like the interactive component to it, and that relationship with the medium in general and television. I was like, no way. So then I tried it and I sucked at it. I kept dying by alligators and falling in a pit and getting hit by, logs and stuff rolling by. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then he took it up a notch and busted out the Nintendo. And that graphic wise, you see Mario bouncing around, and I'm just like,
That's crazy.
okay,
Yeah.
we need one of these. And I wouldn't stop bothering my mom and dad until we got one for Christmas.
So you're the reason why we got it.
You can blame our Uncle Chris for why we got it, because he's the one that got me hooked on it for sure. Like, I blew my mind. What? You can control something on the television?
Did you guys ever play that game Adventure on the Atari 2600?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you just
That was
overlocked?
that was
Yeah.
such a weird game
was.
because it almost feels like a prototype
smiley
Legend of
face
Zelda.
thing. Yeah. This
Yeah,
little
it's like
smiley
a-
face
it's a
dude
Zelda.
walking
Yeah.
around, like floating around, and
Yeah,
and it had puzzles. It
that
had
one has
puzzles.
that one did not hold your hand
And it
too.
had secrets.
Oh, secrets and puzzles. You got to find keys. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So all of that said, we've discussed what our first experiences are with gaming. We've got about an hour or so. And I think before we move forward with this conversation, maybe we should have started with this, but when we're talking about retro gaming, when we're talking about classic gaming,
Mhm.
What exactly are we talking about? What generation of systems are we considering in this category of retro gaming? And the next picture I have here that I threw in, this is going to be a controversial thing. I think it's going to be divisive amongst this group and some of our listeners. The magazine, which I didn't know was a thing, Retro Gamer magazine, officially released a cover that the PlayStation 2 is considered to be a retro console.
Totally.
100%.
Anything that's 20 years or older is considered.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
PlayStation
I
2
think
came
it's a
out
retro
20
game.
No.
PlayStation 2 came out
retro.
20
Here's-
years ago.
okay,
It's retro. 100%.
So when here's my logic. Maybe I'm the only one here. PlayStation.
Usually
2,
you are when it comes to
It is.
everything.
Yeah, I'm.
You just
okay
don't
with
want to
having a
admit how
different
old
opinion.
you are. That's all.
Shut it. That's not what it is. When I hear someone say, like, if an indie developer is making a game and they're pitching it and they say, this is going to have a real retro feel to it. It's like a retro style game. It's like a classic retro old school gaming. Are you thinking PlayStation, Xbox? No. Not even remotely crossing your mind when you're thinking
I mean,
retro
nowadays,
gaming.
most retro games nowadays are based off of that style.
No, dude, I'm telling you. If you have a retro game, it is every system before online gaming became a thing.
So would
that
you
means
say the
original
PlayStation
Xbox-
1?
PlayStation 1 and N64 maybe would be included in that. But even that for me is a
Maybe
little
only?
waffly, but I definitely
my
would not include
Here's the deal.
PlayStation 2 or the original Xbox. That's online gaming. If you need the internet to be able to play with your friends, that's not retro gaming.
PlayStation 2 is barely online gaming.
There's this game,
That's a great game. That's a great game, Andrew.
game called Evoland,
Yes.
and it's all based upon retro games, and it's a RPG where as you upgrade, you
As you go
actually
through the
evolve
levels.
into newer graphics, and the final graphics that you get into are
And-
PlayStation 2 graphics.
And not just graphics, but the gameplay too.
Yeah, and the gameplay as well.
And all the
Okay.
new it started with all like Legend of Zelda type effects, and then you move on to more RPGs, and it goes on to different
Turn-based fighting.
various
Okay.
game
This
styles. So it's a
sounds
very
like-
fun game.
Sounds
I
like an
played it.
awesome game. It sounds like something I would very much enjoy. That is not an argument for the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox to be considered retro
The
games.
idea is that now that PlayStation 2 is one of those games, it is one of that style.
Because one developer thinks so?
Alberto, you had your hand up.
No,
What were you
it's
saying?
just
Yeah, I got a quick question because I'm not saying at all that I agree with Dan, but I'm not also saying
I love when they start with that. I'm not
But-
saying I agree with you.
that's
I'm
how
not
we
saying-
got into the last 30, 40
But-
minute conversation.
but I'm not saying I agree, but I'm saying I do have a question kind of in the same realm. Maybe a different way to kind of question it is there ever going to be a new definition of retro? I feel like the idea of what retro has been the same for a while, and I would argue maybe like the last 15-ish years. Since then, now N64, PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, they're kind of looked at as retro sometimes. Is this going to be like a new era, almost called like the nostalgia era versus like the
I would
retro
be
I
era?
much
think
more-
I think you've gone the right path.
I'm much
Alberto.
more inclined to go that route, Alberto, to look at it, and not unlike how they've classified comic books to be the Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, not unlike rock music. The vintage rock, official vintage rock era is 1964 to 1974, and that is it. Those 10 years, that is vintage rock officially within the broadcast and music world, right? Like that's that era. So if you're going to say vintage rock and it's not within that decade, it's not vintage rock. You're just using the term wrong. And so when I think retro gaming or classic gaming, I think, it's pixels, not polygons. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yes, Christian.
You're wrong.
Okay.
But okay.
Question for you. Okay.
Okay.
What year were
Throw
you born?
that out there.
Dan, what year were you born?
What year was I born? 1983.
Okay. And so Super Nintendo, we said, came out 1986, right? Was that or when you say 85? What year did that come out?
86. It came out. It was in America. It was released
Okay.
in 1986.
So would you consider the Super Nintendo retro then?
I don't think the Super Nintendo came out in 86.
Regardless,
No,
it came out around the time you were born.
Nintendo came out in 86.
Either way,
I thought it was
would
85.
would you consider the Super Nintendo retro?
Who are you asking? Me?
You, yes.
1990.
Okay.
I'd
Either
say
way.
anything up to or after. Well, anything that came out.
I think anything before the Atari Jaguar is easily considered retro, and then anything past like Dreamcast.
No, I want to. That's my question because like you were born around the time period that this console was released. So I'm curious, do you consider that retro?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are people who are now turning 21 years old who were born the year the PlayStation 2 came out.
Yep.
And so to them, that console is the same thing to them that the Super Nintendo is to you. So you're saying that they're not allowed to consider that retro because it's not as old as the one you consider retro.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You're saying it's not considered retro.
I'm saying that the standards of what is considered to be retro has to be more than just, oh, it came out around when I was born. That's not what the terminology means.
One more question.
It's old. What's the time? What's the year then? What year stops being
anything
retro?
that is pixels and not polygons? As soon as the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn came out, we started moving into a whole new generation of games.
That's retro.
So you're telling me the Nintendo 64 is not retro?
I already explained that I'm on the fence about. Like that right there is like the transitional era. Anything after the Nintendo 64, the original PlayStation, and the Sega Dream or the Sega Saturn are definitely not retro.
Sure that those use polygons. I thought that.
That's what Andrew.
Dan,
I already explained it. That generation is like maybe, but as soon as you start talking about okay, you can game with your friends online, that's a whole new generation of gaming that we are still in. That's not retro.
Yeah,
it's not
PS2
retro.
barely was an online system.
Yeah,
Right, but there's got to be the beginning of it somewhere and the end of another one elsewhere. And online gaming is that point.
What would you consider the PlayStation 2 up till, I feel like the PlayStation 2, Xbox, Dreamcast, GameCube era was such a different time than the next generation where it became very much like this is an online system. Xbox was ahead of their time.
That was that's the line that
Agreed.
N64 to Wii. That's
Yes.
when the line is divided into
Yeah.
retro.
I would say the
and newer
Wii, Xbox 360, PS3, that is the cutoff. Those are the consoles that are no longer retro.
Y'all are only saying that because of when you were born.
No,
That's the only reason why you're saying that.
no.
Dan, Dan.
Those were my prime consoles, and I'm still considering them retro.
Dan, I got a question.
Yeah.
So again, not agreeing, but I do understand a little bit, and I have a related question. So I've had the same problem, not with games, but more along with movies. So Casablanca, Citizen Kane, those are considered in movies classics, but to some people they're called like vintage classics. And then movies like Alien, Die Hard, Godfather, those are also considered classics as well. So what would you consider the movies from like the 40s, like Casablanca and stuff like that? And then what would you consider movies like Godfather? Would you, like where?
I break those down not unlike the way that comic books are. There's the golden age of cinema, and there's the silver age of cinema.
Okay.
And like that's how I look at it.
Yeah,
And a lot of those transitions are based on major technical advancements that moved the entire medium in a whole new direction after that point. Like
Xbox
Technicolor.
360,
like the Xbox and the PlayStation,
the original
and
Xbox
the
was ahead of
Dreamcast
its time.
having online.
Yes. No,
They all had online. They all had online
but
gaming.
nobody played
Barely.
online PS2.
Right.
No,
Just
but-
like when Technicolor came out, not every single film was doing Technicolor, but that era of films started the entire new generation of classifying cinema, and that
So
whole generation.
can we meet halfway then? And like, I'll definitely like agree and disagree at the same time, because I do see your side for sure. And I was born like pretty much like the same probably week as Christian, if anything. So I definitely like see both sides. But for the sake of keeping the conversation going, if you're not gonna call it retro, and I've already kind of given it just like a random name of like nostalgia era, what name would you better give it then? Like the introduction to 3D gaming all the way up until HD gaming, because I feel like that's its own weird little.
I would be willing. So here's the deal: I would be willing to compromise the idea that the original PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 could be classified as retro, because that again is based on an entire generation without the internet. Like once the game was made and released, that was it. Were there other games that came out on the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, the Dreamcast, that once they were made, that was it? Yeah, but the internet connection enabled them to be able to push updates to change the game for the person.
Okay, so what would you call that generation?
I
Every
think we
other
need to make
generation
new-
prior to that was never an option. That's
we
a
need to
whole
give these
different generation.
generations names.
Yeah.
I
So
think
what would you
we need
call
to
that
get-
then? If you're not
and
going to call it
subsection.
retro, what would you call it?
I think PlayStation
Online
That's
game.
not-
I mean, it's online gaming. The
it's
generation
not.
of online gaming.
But it's not. It's not
It
online
is.
gaming. PlayStation 3 is when online gaming really took off. PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360.
It's when it took off, yeah, but that's not when it started.
I think that
It
Alberto
started a
makes
whole generation before that with Halo 2. It started a whole generation before that with NFL 2K on the Dreamcast. It started a whole generation before that with Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2 online on both the PS2 and the original Xbox.
I think Alberto makes a really good point of, and he probably didn't even realize he made this point, that like the Xbox and the PS2 and the GameCube and the Dreamcast were standard definition systems. HD gaming wasn't a thing.
It was just really low high definition. The original Xbox
I
could get up
would
to 720.
consider it true HD.
Well,
Yeah,
not
like-
not that we know now, no.
Is it 720?
It was able to get up to 720p.
Yeah, with the
What
Right,
was,
but I'm
the,
saying,
what was
like,
the aspect ratio?
I wouldn't consider 720 like true HD. I feel like 1080 is where you
What?
start the true HD.
High definition is all that matters. I mean, if we're talking, you can get cables for it that are composite or component. That's a major step towards HD.
What I'm trying to
It's
say
not-
is the next generation after that, Xbox 360, PS3, the Wii is a anomaly.
it always was.
Yeah, Nintendo's in its own just kind
The
of.
original
Those
start of
were
that generation,
HD
though, none of them.
systems.
Yes, but none of those games started with 720 or started with 1080 either. The original PlayStation's
But they
lineup,
started with
and
an
the 360
HDMI cable.
they
The 360
started with
didn't, but the PS3 did.
didn't. But it was always the same as the last generation before. The games were still at 720 at best, which is what the top tier was of the previous generation. That was HD gaming.
So
All right,
time.
we're spending way too much time on this. We
Yeah.
need to move on.
I
I'll
mean,
agree
but
to
it's a
disagree,
genuine
and I'll just-
conversation. You know?
I'll consider it almost like the nostalgia era. Only because like I also do get like your point where like it did in fact still reach HD, 720, at least like the bare minimum to be considered HD. But like oddly enough, like the Super Nintendo was coax, and then it did also reach AV. So it was almost finally getting out of like the RF era of gaming, which was like
Right.
the Atari 26 and everything. So I do see both points, but
Sega pushed that one over.
Yeah.
there, too.
I will.
I'll
say,
agree to disagree,
yeah.
and I'll call it more of a nostalgia era. Which
Yeah,
maybe
I will
might-
agree as well. Man. I think PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 are easily retro, 100% without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. I will agree that PlayStation 2 and original Xbox can be considered a kind of bridge generation.
I would call the N64 easily retro just because it still uses the one thing that really calls everything else retro, and it's cartridges. It still
Yeah,
uses cartridges.
100%.
At least that system itself should be considered retro by that point, just because it
100%.
was the last home console that used it. It's the farewell, I feel like.
Yeah, 100% agreement.
Next question, we're shifting things a bit here
Yes, sir.
into the arcade world. Now, gentlemen, do you remember what an arcade is? Do you know
Yes.
what an arcade
Viv-
is?
vividly.
Yes, Dan. I am not.
And
Bobby, I know
old.
you know what an arcade is.
So,
Do you guys
Dan, I
understand
just
what?
wanna
Do you want to explain to the youngins what an arcade
Oh
is,
my
Bobby?
God, you guys.
So when I was a
It's
young
Dave
guy,
and Buster's. It's
you
Dave
would
and
go
Buster's.
to the place called the mall. You didn't have to wear a mask, and you had
mall?
a mall is you had all these stores inside a building, and you can go shopping.
Is
And
that like
then-
Amazon?
So okay, so
But in person.
yeah, like Amazon,
In
right?
person.
Exactly.
That was in person, and then when your parents wanted time away from you, they would give you a $20 bill and say, "Go play in the arcade."
And,
And then you pop that $20 in, get a whole bunch of quarters, and you play a bunch of games.
So, in all seriousness, though, we all know what an arcade is.
Mhm.
They aren't really a thing anymore. Not by much.
I
Unless
mean,
you go to like you, I mean, you mentioned like
well,
Dave and Buster's and stuff.
Pre-COVID,
Buster's.
it was quite a thing. There was a
Yeah.
resurgence. Barcades were a big
True.
part of.
Yeah.
Very good
Um,
point.
And I'm interested to see what the future is going to be after COVID. If like arcades are going to, because so many
hope
people are
so.
going to want social interaction.
Yes.
I'm hoping that arcades like become a big deal. You know,
I really
but
hope so too.
Amazing.
Arcades are one of my favorite things.
There's some legit awesome arcades that are still being put out too. They're really good.
Yeah,
There's
like
a
new
new
ones.
Ninja Turtles one, a 4-player Ninja Turtles that is
Mhm.
brand new to an arcade exclusively, and it looks amazing. So
you need to, if you got some time to research and pull up the picture, there is a new Tomb Raider
What?
light gun, and the thing is like 20 feet long. It is a 4-player Tomb Raider light gun game, and the thing is just massive. If you can look it up.
I'm looking it up now. Let's go to our first one though. Alberto, which arcade game did you spend the most money on when you were growing up? Which one sucked most of your quarters? This is what we got here.
So
Um,
I put my main one and I put runner up because
All right.
my runner up Time Crisis, I know for sure Time Crisis 2, which is why when Andrew posted that picture, I was like, "What's your address? You might accidentally get a break in. Don't call the cops."
Andrew just got his own Time Crisis 2 arcade.
I
My own
know.
Time Crisis.
To
So
give
Time
you-
Crisis 2, I played a lot. I only have one sibling, my sister, and since this game often was paired with the Player 2 cabinet, it was the perfect
Yeah.
game for both of us to really take a part in. But if it was a game that I know for sure that still took the most amount of my money, and the one that hurt the most when I lost the arcade cabinet, there was a movie theater that was called Movies 10. It was in the area that we lived by. And Movies 10 unfortunately shut down a few years back. In there, they had a really mini little arcade room. In there, they had one Crazy Taxi arcade cabinet that I have been playing since middle school. And I played it all the
Dang.
way through high school, and I kept playing, and eventually I made it to the top 15 names in the high school chart. And when they shut down that place, I was like, there goes my hard work.
there
I
you,
will
that's
never
the thing though, getting that high score,
Personally-
dude, for real.
It's like in
There is-
Wreck-It Ralph when they're unplugging the arcade.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurt.
Oh.
It hurt. So that's why I had to put That's why I had to put Crazy Taxi number 1 because it was the one that like Time
Yeah.
Crisis was one that like you popped in some quarters. I never cared about my high score, but Crazy Taxi was the one that every time I heard that didn't like a punk rock song started.
Offspring.
Oh my god! Once that song started, I just shifted into drive, and that's it. And I was ready to rock and roll. And I was ready to drop everything on that machine every single time. I remember Galloping Ghost even had a Crazy Taxi, and Ari and I we spent like a half hour in that machine. Just okay, you go. Okay, my turn. Okay, you go. Okay, my turn. And it was just back and forth, just trying to get onto that leaderboard. That's something I really love. There was like a competitiveness almost. It's almost like you know how dogs when they go on walks they have to pee on every tree. Even though maybe a dog hasn't peed on it in like weeks. Okay, that's like, it's like we are dogs and that's a tree and I had to pee on it and put my name on it every time.
Yeah, I'm following you 100%.
Every time. That's hilarious.
But Crazy
Hilarious.
Taxi for sure.
Cool. Here's let me see if I can bring this up. Here is that Tomb Raider game, Andrew, that you were talking about. if it'll work.
I haven't played it. I don't know if it's any good, but I saw it at a place, and I was like,
It
this
looks
is-
ridiculous.
I was like, this is the biggest arcade I have ever seen.
It looks ginormous, especially for like a light gun shooter. If you miss anything on this gigantic screen, you are terrible, terrible at shooting. Here it is, right here.
Oh wow!
I think it's huge, right? And on-rail shooters is one of those things that I feel like arcade games.
Yeah, that's a 4-player one.
That is 100% a Dave and Buster's as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like, and on-rail shooters is the kind of thing that you can't really replicate that experience at home nearly as closely as doing it on a cabinet. This thing is huge, and she's got a pistol that looks exactly like Lara Croft's main gun, which is awesome.
And it's 4-player. Like, have you ever seen a 4-player like
That's
game?
awesome.
Is it 4-player?
No, I
Unless
think it looks
it's
like it's 2-player.
You have 2 guns.
Yeah, it's
that might
2-player, 2 guns, because Lara Croft has her dual pistols.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that
I
makes a
always
lot of
thought it was
sense.
4-player.
I will also say there's
lot of
one interesting
load up
thing.
here.
I don't know if you guys have noticed in more like modern kind of like games like that. They're starting to like incorporate actual save features where you can carry like a save feature from like I don't know if it's from like card to card or like an app, but you can scan something onto different cabinets and it carries on your arcade progress almost like it's like a normal cartridge game. And it's the oddest thing. Not many cabinets that I know of at least utilize it, but the few that do, it's interesting to say the least. This game kind of looked like it might take advantage of that because it looks like the 360 reboot of Tomb Raider. Like,
Alberto,
that's cool.
can I-
Well, but
Can I
it
jump off
definitely looks like it's 4-player. Like there's,
Yeah.
you can bring this up. It definitely looks like it's 4-player because down at the bottom there's like you're using a card in order to put in your credits for it, and down at the bottom you'll see swipe card, and there's 4 of them.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
So
4-player.
yeah, that is definitely 4-player.
it must be 4-player. I've never seen an on-rail 4-person.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
sorry, Bobby.
I'm sorry I cut you guys off.
What are you
No,
gonna say?
I was gonna say, when does anyone remember when they went from quarter/tokens to the swipe card system? And
No,
how do you
seriously.
guys feel about the new swipe card systems?
I don't like it at all.
I mean, it's
But-
definitely easier.
It is
It's
easier,
easier.
for sure.
You gotta pay like $5 just to get the card.
Right.
I did
I mean,
a lot
I
though walking
I-
around with like a random little Dixie cup filled with quarters and running
That's
from
true.
place to place and like either tucking in between my legs or on like the
True.
actual cabinet.
Yeah.
Just popping them in.
It's
But
way
if
more
you lose
convenient.
that card, that is it.
You're done.
You're done.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's easier, but it does take away some of the
Oh, the scramble of like you're
Yeah.
dead and you gotta find that quarter.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Shoot,
any
you
of
got
you
10
guys-
seconds. Where's the quarter? Run to the
Yeah.
machine. Get the
Yeah,
token.
any of you
Pressing
guys
the
takes
button
away
while it
some of
counts
the-
down. Keep resetting the counter.
I remember
Did-
that.
Did any of
I
you guys
remember
used to
that.
go from cabinet to cabinet? Now I might be just that really terribly awful kid that used to do this, but
There it is. Continue. 18,
I used to
17,
walk-
16.
I used to sometimes walk around like the arcade, and sometimes people would forget that they had credits saved on to their
Totally.
machines or something,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would just press the eject button and try to get some
Nope.
free tokens that way, or some
100%.
3/4, and
Oh,
take
yeah.
it real quick. And I'm like, yes, I got one more try in Crazy Taxi now.
For sure, dude.
I kept doing
funny
that.
funny story kind of jumping off that me and my dad used to go to haunted trails all the time when I was a kid growing up.
Which one, Burbank or? I went to both of them. Which do you know which one?
I don't
Is
remember.
this an arcade? Trails?
Yes, haunted trails. It was it was an arcade,
Yeah.
and we used to go there all the time when I was growing up, and like to the point where like the owners knew us, like, and we just like that was what we would do on the weekends, and it was so fun. And there was one time where me and my dad were getting tokens from the machine, and my dad was putting the money in, and I was holding the bucket so we could catch all the quarters. And this like random kid just like walks up to us and just like sticks his hand in my bucket and just like starts trying to take quarters out.
What?
And so my dad looks at him and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm getting some quarters." And my dad's like, go get your own quarters. These are our quarters.
What?
And he's like, but I just
Balls
need
on that kid.
I just need 2 to continue. And he's like, well, then go find $1 and put it in the machine somewhere
Right.
else. And so the kids took 2 of our quarters and dipped.
Wow.
you
Confidence
just-
of this man.
Yeah, he just
He
reached
went back to play his game.
Yeah, he just big bolted off.
That's when I walk over to him while he's playing his game and totally mess with him the whole time. So those 2 quarters were completely worthless and wasted. Andrew, this is an interesting choice for you. I mean, when we're talking game, we're talking usually video games. This isn't. I mean, I guess it's a video game, but it's
not the typical video game.
not your typical video game. Hungry Hippos.
I didn't even know they even
Ticket.
had.
I feel
had a
like I
ticket for
played
that?
that game. It was going to be between this one and then the one where the light spins around.
Yes, and you have to
Oh.
stop it like in this
Which-
little center thing.
It has been proven that
total
it's
scam.
actually a complete scam.
Oh,
Total
all
scam.
of them. 99% of arcade games are scams.
So, but Hungry Hippos was always like, I don't. Maybe Daniel, you might have been too old to play it, but I remember our brother Isaac, and Valerie, and me. Like we always did this.
Yeah, you guys are always going after the tickets to get all those cheap little trinkets.
Yeah,
Like, what's the point of that?
And you were playing House of the Dead while I wasn't
I was
allowed.
playing House of the Dead and Area 51 and Mortal Kombat. That's what I was playing.
Dan's like, I was too busy growing my beard to play those kids.
yeah, right.
I
exactly.
started shaving my head when I was 6.
Stubble. Yeah, right.
I
Exactly.
remember when the first time I saw House of the Dead, and it was like this strange thing where I was like, I know I should not be watching this, but I can't look away.
Oh yeah, like I could.
Oh yeah.
When I was playing, okay, so when I was playing like Alien, Area 51, and House of the Dead, I made sure it was the times when I was dropped off at the mall or I drove myself, and my mom and dad were not around at all, because if they saw me shooting things in the face and their heads exploding and blood splurting everywhere, they would have definitely grounded.
Which is why I always played Hungry Hippo. So
Yeah, I wasn't. I was a little more risque, I guess. I don't know. Interesting choice. And did any of you guys ever get into like the ticket games when you went to the arcade?
Oh, yeah.
Did you dive into the ticket stuff, or was it
Wheel
more
them
the-
in.
Yes,
all
sir.
the time. All the time.
At Chuck E. Cheese and putting it in and you hear for like
Oh,
15
yeah.
minutes.
That's
Forgot
the
about
part,
that.
That's the part I'm most mad about the swipes, is not having physical tickets to cash in anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
because
even
like
care about
you
quarters. I
used
don't
to be
even care
able
about
to
quarters.
like you used to be able to walk past like that ticket machine and see that one kid with a mountain of tickets and be like, I don't know you, but I hate you.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Right.
Feeding them in.
I
Oh,
went
man.
to a golf course with a video game, and they had a giant Space Invaders, and I took the
I've seen that. It looks
and I took
amazing.
the Philip Fry approach, and I'm like, I'm gonna play this like Philip Fry, and I heard, oh my gosh, I heard that whole song playing in my
Yeah.
game, and just like that one Futurama episode, and I beat the game. And, and
Wow.
my ding 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 and I'm like yelling and screaming, and my wife and my son, who was like just a couple months old, we were at there was a fundraiser at this at this mini golf course, and I just won Space Invaders. I'm like, woo, tickets, tickets. And I'm like, I'm gonna give my tickets to all the kids.
There you go. There you go.
That's
The hero
awesome.
of the day, right?
I love it.
And then the parents are like, no, thank you, because we already own 3 of those swords.
Right?
Yeah.
The cheap little trinkets that they're going to buy, all that stuff.
You know how many of those little army men with the really crappy parachutes I got, Bobby, as a kid?
Right?
That's it. I just kept throwing them, and I was like, one of them will work.
Or the little poppers that you'd like push in, and then it would.
Or the stupid
Mhm.
model airplanes, the paper ones, the styrofoam ones that flew
yeah.
3.5 inches.
Oh,
and just fell straight
Looks
to the
so
ground.
cool.
Or
Yeah,
you spend
I,
$40 to get a $20 toy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Bobby, moving on to your choice. I love this choice. And if anybody at Arcade 1UP is listening or watching, probably not, but who knows? It's a small world. I would love to have this game.
I chose
Into the arcade game.
They made an arcade game. I thought it was only a console game.
Terminator 2,
Oh.
the arcade.
Oh,
This is the best
Wow.
T2 game, best Terminator game. Like,
I
ever.
agree. Yes.
Excellent
yeah, I mean,
choice, Bobby.
You played Terminator on Super Nintendo or Nintendo. You tried playing all those. Nothing, because it
Not
was
even close
horrible.
to the same thing.
The hits were off, but this
Yeah.
was a true Terminator game. It take you from the future to the actual movie, and the effects were real. You had Arnold going, "I'll be back. Hasta la
Excellent.
vista, baby."
Excellent game.
Yeah, so I thought that was just the pinnacle. And then when it came, eventually this game did come to consoles, but
And it
I
wasn't
don't think
very
it
good.
did justice.
No, it
No,
didn't.
it wasn't good at all.
Not
Yeah, that's
even
the
remote.
only version I knew about. I haven't been to I never went to like a Chuck E. Cheese or
It
Haunted
would not
Trails,
be-
Enchanted Castle.
This would have been like an Enchanted Castle.
Yeah.
Haunted
Oh, yeah.
Trails and Enchanted Castle are both owned by the same company.
Yeah,
And,
they were,
and
they
the
were-
interesting thing about this one, this was kind of in the same vein as the Weapon X, Generation X, whatever that one is by Aerosmith. Revolution X, right. Like the guns were permanently fixed and mounted on a pivot to the actual console. It wasn't like there was like a holster like with Time Crisis, like Bobby was doing. Like what Alberto was saying with Time Crisis. This is like they were mounted there, pointing at the screen, and you had to pivot the thing and move it up. But it was so good. It was so good.
The
Modern
story was
art.
captivating, and it brought an extra layer to the movie. If you love the movie, it brought an extra layer to the movie.
I never got to watch the movie when I was a kid, so this was my only experience to Terminator, and that's part of the reason why I ate it up and loved it so much, because I felt like I was kind of getting away with something, but my mom and dad weren't as upset because I'm shooting evil robots, and they're cool with that. You're not shooting anything else; you're blowing away robots. So, it's not quite, people exploding like in House of the Dead or something like that. So, next one, Christian. All these
Yes.
Unreal shooters. I love this.
So I played. So there's about I think 3 or 4 different silent scopes
There
that
are
have come out
3 of
over,
them officially that really
and
come out.
all 3 of them I have played
maybe 4.
a ridiculous amount of times.
Yeah.
They were fun and ridiculous and very almost like they were very cheesy. Like you were obviously sniping people and assassinating people, but it was very cheesily
Yeah.
done in a way. Like, and there was always like a hidden like bikini model that you had to like that you used to get like extra hearts and stuff like that. Like, and it was a fun way to just zone yourself in and lose an hour, 2 hours of time. Like, it's so fun. I loved them.
That's hilarious, dude.
And fun fact, they turned them all into PS2 games as well.
They did. And original Xbox.
And they were
Oh.
so fun even on console as well.
Yep. Totally agree. For me, I picked 2 because I just couldn't decide which one.
Area 50. I forgot.
Area
what that one
51, the original light gun shooter, Area 51. There was also Maximum Force, and then there was Site B, Area 51, Site B. This game in particular, it was a tough choice between this, as far as Unreal Shooter option, and House of the Dead. Both of those were
Is that a Michael
Okay.
Jackson zombie in the bottom left?
right for real. It's hilarious.
Michael Jackson did have his own arcade game as well. It was Moonwalker.
He did. Moonwalker. The arcade is the amazing version of that game too. Definitely.
Yes,
Way
again,
better
another
than the
bad
console.
port to the system.
But
to the
Area
console.
51 was by far the one that took the most quarters from me. And then when we got a PlayStation and a light gun,
Dude,
we got
I
this, and it was
all the time at home.
legit. The arcade experience at home. It's what it felt like anyway.
Yeah.
And loved burning through so many quarters and beating this game over and over and over. And I would love to absolutely have one of these in
Area
my home
51 is
someday.
a
But
great game.
yeah. And then the other
Just-
one,
Of the
the other one is,
aliens being killed.
yeah, you hit them and they like blow up and explode into like a million gutsy pieces.
Dan, as soon as I saw this, I haven't seen an arcade or an Area 51 cabinet in so long. I had like PTSD for a moment because like I remember being
looking
a
at
kid.
this picture. Yeah.
Yeah,
You had a
I-
Vietnam flashback.
I remember being a kid, and shout out to Melrose Park. There was like a little mom and pop pizza shop that they had one cabinet there in the pizza shop where they sold big old thick slices of pizza with the fattest little sausage and pepperoni pieces there, greasy.
Pizza and arcade.
And there was that machine there, right there. And I just remember popping in every single week to change for my lunch from school, at least 1 or 2 tries while like my mom
Yeah,
would wait
dude.
for the pizza.
Dude, I remember the sound of the attract mode of this thing.
Yes.
It goes da-da-da, and then like the guns shooting and the whole. I love this game so much.
It's a great game.
The other one for me, if you know me, you know I love Mortal Kombat. Like of all the fighting games that have ever come out, Mortal Kombat is it for me. Love this franchise. Of the original trilogy, I'm kind of a dissenter. Most people love 2. 2's really good, but Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 definitely took the most quarters from me. It is fantastic. And when you learned how to do a few neat, unique tricks that other people didn't know, like this is the era of arcade, right? Like the internet wasn't huge. So as soon as you learned how to do something, you remembered it so you could show it off to all your buddies when you went to the arcade, right? So being able to take Cyber Smoke, which is who was initially in this game, and then as soon as the round starts, you know the right button combination to hold down to poof, then he turns into Human Smoke instead, and his move list is different, his fatalities are different. Like doing that sort of thing at the arcade, even if you lost, even if you like lost miserably, everybody was like, dude, how did you do that? That was amazing. You got to tell me how to do that. And you didn't say anything. And then you just hoped, you did it the next time around and you saw everybody watch you like a hawk to see what you were doing. And then they try it and they didn't do it right. And they go, no, seriously, how'd you do that? Like that era of game, and especially with fighting games. Street Fighter and Tekken and all of that stuff. You drop your quarter on the screen right next to it. I got next match, right?
You could probably have a whole podcast based on fighter games.
For real. And Mortal Kombat definitely took the most quarters from me.
Oh, Bobby, that's a great idea. I want an excuse to talk about.
Talk about fighting games there.
Yeah, there was a WCW versus NWO.
Oh, that's a good game.
Just to even give that one.
Good game right there.
Or WWE No Mercy.
No Mercy. Yeah, that was
was a big one.
64. 64?
That was in 64, and there was an arcade machine version.
That's what I thought. Yeah, and then WWF Raw was the one that was on the PlayStation, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. So retro systems. Now we're going to wrap things up here. We got about a half hour. Our favorite retro systems of all time.
Full disclosure, I made my decision before we hit our conversation.
I was going to say, I disagree with the decision on principle, but I'm not going to go back into that conversation.
But now we have that conversation.
I'll happily let you have this and explain your logic here, Alberto.
Okay.
Your favorite retro system is...
Okay, like I said,
the PlayStation
right on.
So,
PlayStation 2, right?
I originally wanted to put Game Boy Advance, but it's technically a year older, and I wanted to be as close to the year 2000. This just barely made the cutoff, and I wanted to pick PS2 also because the other reason, the rest of you guys are already going to give love to my other really huge top choices, so I really would love to hear you guys gush about the other two or the other 4 choices you guys picked. But PS2, the reason I really loved it, it was our home's first DVD player. I never had a PS1 growing up, so to be able to have a backwards compatible console, that was really unique and cool.
And a DVD player all in one, which is a big deal back then.
I was able to have that in my bedroom, so I was able to watch movies at the same time, playing games. I just remember being able to do like the whole memory card stuff. Like memory cards were still a thing during that time. On top of that, my cousin had a uncle that from like the other side of the family who would bootleg DVDs like PlayStation disc and emulated
right.
games and or like burnt disc were like a huge thing back then. He had this whole CD. It was like 200 something PlayStation 1 games on one DVD, another 150 on like another DVD. So I had like the entire PlayStation 1 library right then and there. So being able to play on this PS2 was awesome. There's just too many good memories. And for me, like the way I see the PS2 is also the system that brought in like the iToy, it brought in Rock Band, it brought in the Guitar Hero peripherals. It came in a lot of things, and it was almost like an arcade was really finally at my house because you can get
Yeah,
the
it
light
makes a
guns
lot of
for time
sense.
prices.
I could see that. I
Then-
could see that for sure, Alberto.
So it was,
what was your favorite PlayStation 2 game out of curiosity, Alberto?
favorite would probably have to be Tony Hawk's Underground. Another Tony Hawk game.
Of course, the Tony Hawk, dude. We just talked
Yeah,
about that
I
last
should
week.
know.
We
I
need
don't even
to-
know why I
Well,
asked
that'll- Come on, Christian.
But at the same time, the one that impacted me the most and really made me start looking at games not just like as something to, to plug in a controller and just play for 15 minutes or something. It was Kingdom Hearts. It was my first time finding like secret bosses, the whole RPG route, going on side quest kind of stuff and gathering things, upgrading. There was something really unique about that, and it changed everything for me. So this system to me was an arcade at home, a DVD player at home, a PlayStation 2. I was able to play Call of Duty 3 online with like the 4 people that played online because I had the big chunky one with the Ethernet port in the back.
Had to get that adapter on the back.
Oh, it was terrible.
You had to wait like the 37 minutes for it to connect to the internet before you
the
could do
speed
anything.
online garbage.
That was the weird thing about PlayStation that at that point, like they finally created that adapter for the PlayStation 2 to get online because so many games were heading that way, but it wasn't standard required for you to have an Ethernet connection. Xbox was like, nope, if you're going to do anything, we're not doing dial-up. We're not making room for that. And PlayStation was like, oh, you can do dial-up if you want. And it took forever.
Yeah,
And-
it was
and-
wild.
Someone
Bobby's
just say
also right. Yeah, Bobby said that like Kingdom Hearts with their crazy amount of sequels and their stories going off the rails.
storylines.
That's a really confusing series.
That storyline, I remember when the
Like
Game Boy
Metal Gear
Advance game was gonna come out. I saw the trailers. I was like, oh, I'll pick that up one day. And then I picked up Kingdom Hearts 2. I didn't know anything what was going on. And turns out that little Game Boy Advance game that came in the middle of it was canon the entire time. I didn't have the internet. I didn't know that it was a canon thing. And I just played Kingdom Hearts 2 missing 20 hours of content. And I was just lost the first 5-7 hours. I was like, what the hell is going on in this game right now? And Kingdom Hearts continues that all the way up until modern day.
Yeah,
Making
and
PSP, PS Vita, or no, PSP, 3DS,
iOS.
Yeah, that's true. They even made like an
Yeah,
iOS.
it's crazy, and it's all fumbled.
It's all over the
and
place.
still nobody can make heads or tails.
Kingdom Hearts is the ultimate acid trip of video gaming.
Yeah.
I did
That and the Metal Gear series.
Yeah.
Metal Gear, if you're going to try and make
Oh
sense of
my
the Metal Gear, that
God.
you can't make sense of those either.
There's like a YouTube video out there, like someone trying to explain it, and I was just like,
I'm done with this. I
Pass.
tried watching some of those too, Andrew, and I was like, I can't.
A buddy of mine was.
I don't
was-
care that much. They're fun
was a
games,
fr-
but I don't care.
There was a Friday night I was playing with a buddy of mine named Ryan, and he had a few drinks. And I asked him, hey, just explain to me Metal Gear Solid. I tried playing Ground Zero, and I don't understand the story. For 45 minutes, because he was a little buzzed and he didn't understand the concept of time, he told me the whole storyline of Metal Gear Solid.
Chronological order or release order?
Both. And then after 45 minutes, because I didn't want to interrupt him, he's passionate about that series, and I can tell his filter's off, and he really is enjoying it. At the end of it, though, he ends with this, and I swear on everything, he goes, saying this out loud, though, yeah, actually, this game is really confusing as hell.
Yes,
I was like, yes, thank you for realizing that. Thank
For
you.
real. 45 minutes later.
all I
it's
remember
hilarious.
of Metal Gear Solid 2 is we were playing it, and then all of a sudden you're this blonde guy walking around naked.
I know.
Doing cartwheels.
And
with
I'm
the
like,
brushes.
So we're playing
walking
through.
while we're playing this. Like,
we got Metal Gear Solid 2 because it was like it's super hyped up, fantastic game. Everybody's excited to play the sequel. And so we're playing through it, and we've already talked about how our parents were like, okay, you can't play this, you can't play that, you can't do this, you can't do that. So we play this game, and then suddenly when it shifts over from Solid Snake over to
Liquid Snake?
is it Raiden? Whatever the
Raiden. Yeah.
Raiden, right? And it starts out, you're playing as him, and the dude is walking around butt ass naked.
Mhm.
You're like, what the?
I just
we're like,
we
what
looked at
is
each other.
this?
We looked at each other and we're like,
Yeah,
are we gonna keep playing this? This
I
is
know.
so
I'm like laughing. I'm also embarrassed. We're watching the door to make sure mom doesn't walk in. What the hell is this game you're playing right now? It was the most confusing experience ever. And we did keep playing it, and eventually got past the butt naked part. But yeah, that
My first and only delve into the Metal Gear series is the one that was on PlayStation 3. It was
Ford.
oh, it's Sons of Liberty.
yes, and all the
Or
the
no,
only
was that 4? No, 4 Sons of Liberty.
yeah the only thing that stands out to me about that game, the only thing that I can remember, is the 72-minute final cutscene.
It was like a whole movie, basically.
Yeah, and I remember it vividly because I was playing it in the morning before I had to leave for church. And I was like, "Oh, I'm almost at the end of the game,
You're
so
like,
let me
"Come on,
just
wrap it up,
finish this."
wrap it up.
And literally, I was like, I can't turn it off. I can't pause it. I was like, I don't know how long this cutscene's going. It just kept going and going and going and going and going, and it literally went on forever.
Did you get to finish before you go to
I
church?
finally ended up finishing it, just literally by the skin of my teeth.
That's hilarious, dude. Moving on, Andrew, your choice. We can maybe dive into this together to save some time because it's my
So
choice
good.
as well.
I think it was
Um,
Bobby's choice too. I'm not.
Yeah, I think all
sure.
three of you have the same choice.
Bobby, did you pick this one as well or no?
Yeah, I actually.
Super Nintendo Entertainment System is our favorite retro system. All three of us, right?
I'm just
All
gonna
three of us
say
picked
if-
Super Nintendo.
this is a really hard thing to say because I have a wall of video games, but if I had to choose that every other video game system in the world was destroyed and I could only choose one, it would probably be the Super Nintendo, because even though that would take away online gaming, which is a great thing, there are just way too many memories that I could never give up from the Super Nintendo.
And I think this is when gaming, for me at least, truly became an art, and it started getting players, and it started game testing. Game testing was actually a thing, and you
Yeah.
can see there was a lot of love and thought put into these games. So sorry, Andrew.
Oh, dude, no, take it.
I mean,
but-
that's my thought, because right now I'm replaying Super Metroid right now,
It's so good.
and
That-
I
Yeah.
got calluses right here trying to figure out the wall jump.
Yeah.
Again, trying to reteach myself how to do the wall jump again, just so I can get another
Yeah.
super bomb. Or you're in a safe spot and you got to get out of it because you accidentally saved.
So,
Yeah,
so talking about favorite games from this system, though, because
And the
we
graphics.
kind of discussed that a little bit with Alberto, since he picked the PlayStation 2. Going down the line, what is our favorite of our favorite system? Which game?
All
do you
right,
pick?
so hands down, 2D gaming, hands down, Donkey Kong Country 2 is Diddy Kong's Quest is my favorite game ever.
Donkey Kong Country 2.
2.
Okay.
That game is just perfection in so many levels of platforming, of art design, of the music. I think I might have mentioned this on here before, but I remember our younger brother Isaac, back in the day when you rented games, I was like, Isaac, if we clean our entire bedroom without telling mom or dad asking us to, there's no way that they're going to say no to us renting a video game. And we head to toe, top to bottom, cleaned the entire bedroom. They walked in, were shocked at how clean it was. And of course, we asked if we could rent a video game, and they, I was right. We got to rent the
All right,
video
I
game.
guess we'll do that.
And I was like, I want to rent again Donkey Kong Country 2 so that I can hear the soundtrack, because back then there wasn't internet, and that was the only way that I could listen to the soundtrack. And so, crazy story, a year ago, I'm in a cover band that we take video game music and we mash it up with like pop music. And we're called Do a Barrel Roll, which is hilarious for Star Fox fans out there.
Excellent choice.
But we played a year ago at a thing called MagFest, which is probably the nation's biggest
You played
music
at MagFest?
video game. Yeah, we played at MagFest. So it's like the nation's like biggest
Alberto,
music.
like starstruck here for a second.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous. That's awesome.
We didn't play on the main stage, but we did play like
Listen, man, you
E-
played there.
every
That's
night.
it.
Yeah.
You played there.
like every night. It was super cool. But the story gets so much better than that, because every year they have a theme, and the theme that last year was Donkey Kong, just all things Donkey Kong. And out of all the people that happened to be there, the guest of honor was David Wise, who is the composer for Donkey Kong Country.
Oh,
Wow.
Right?
oh, dude.
So I got to
That's
meet David
awesome.
Wise, which I should have included the picture. I got to meet David Wise. I brought, because I knew he was going to be there, I brought my Donkey Kong Country 2 cartridge and got him to sign it, and told him the
What?
story.
How do I
got
not
him.
know that you got that signature? I didn't know you got that.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
my Donkey Kong Country 2 is signed, and
Wow.
I told him the story of like when I was a kid, I needed to hear your music, and the only way I could do it was to go and rent the game. So I cleaned my bedroom head to toe in order to go and get the cartridge to be able to listen to the music, which is
That's
just
awesome.
like that's like retro to me, where like now you can anywhere, any place, if you love something, you can look it up, you know.
Yep.
But like back
Load it
then,
up on YouTube.
that
or
was the only way you
Spotify
could do
or-
it. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally, dude. That's an awesome story. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Bobby, what is your choice? Your favorite?
Chrono Trigger.
Oh, excellent choice.
that is
Chrono
also
Trigger.
a great soundtrack.
So
Hey,
I
Bobby,
wanna-
great choice.
Yeah.
can I ask you a question too? Is Chrono Cross a sequel to Chrono
Yeah.
Trigger?
a
What,
very
what,
poor,
what is
a
it?
very poor
Yes.
sequel. Yes, it's like an altered dimension type
Yeah, because
deal.
I played Chrono Cross and I was like, I don't.
It
know
isn't
if this is
not a sequel.
It mentions them.
Is it a spiritual sequel?
Yeah, they really.
Okay. So
Okay, anyway.
I would say that Chrono Cross is less of a spiritual sequel because the gameplay and the actual not even really the same game, but
They really try.
storyline narratively, it's kind of in the same. Like they're
They
related for
mention
sure.
what happens in the game
Right.
somewhere. What
Mhm.
happens to the
More like a
actual-
spin-off, maybe.
Yeah,
yeah, but
Kind of
if
like
you
how
play-
Xenoblade or Xenosaga or Xenogears,
right.
they're all Xeno games, but they're like nothing
Okay,
to do
that
with
makes
each
Yeah,
other.
if you
that makes
play,
much more sense.
Metal
If you-
Gear Solid, Metal Gear Rising. Is Rising a sequel? It's not exactly.
Makes sense.
yeah,
you know.
if you play the remakes of Chrono Trigger on any of the new releases after Super Nintendo, there's hidden
Yes,
level.
that's-
Yeah, the DSs, the
Mhm.
iOS ports, they have extra levels
PSP.
that will connect to Chrono Cross.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It's cool
Um,
that they added that stuff in there, but yeah.
yeah, so but with Chrono Trigger, just it got me into RPGs.
It's a good introduction to RPGs too,
Yeah,
because
so
it's
it
not
was-
like super heavy. It's got a real
No, it's a
solid,
great game.
And it was
user friendly kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
the graphics were awesome for 16-bit. The storyline was phenomenal. The writing, and then it was one of the first video games. It was the first video game with multiple endings.
Like
That's
14
a good
endings.
point.
Yeah, and
So many.
you can replay the game with all the stuff that you earned from the first playthrough and start it all over again and enjoy all those
Yeah,
endings.
New Game Plus. That's like a standard now. You know,
Right.
And the artwork that came on the booklet was phenomenal.
Mhm.
All around. Chrono Trigger. I played
that's a
that game
great choice.
times. I know that game by heart.
Very good choice.
So
Yeah.
sorry.
Cool.
Don't apologize. It's
No,
amazing.
no.
It's an excellent
Interrupting you,
decision.
Andrew. You had an awesome story. I have nothing to. I have
No,
the
it's-
orchestra of the Chrono Trigger soundtrack on my phone, just because I love that soundtrack so much.
Very
That's
cool.
a really pretty. Hey, Bobby, have you what's your take on the Secret of Mana? Like, have you ever played that series, and did you enjoy it as much?
I
even play
enjoyed
that
Secret of Mana. That's the next on my playlist. So after I beat Metroid, I'm gonna go to Secret of Mana and play.
Action RPG, so
But
it's
that
very
doesn't have, that didn't have an effect like Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
That changed my perspective on
This-
gaming.
the clock in the beginning when you started up.
You can almost feel Chrono Trigger's like DNA in like modern day like JRPGs and RPGs
Yep.
like to this day like
Big time.
Final Fantasy, for example, is the first one that comes to mind. Like I just almost feel
The same company.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
Squaresoft for
very
sure.
nice.
And here's the interesting thing. I feel like maybe this is accurate, maybe it's not, but I felt like the Final Fantasy series was a little too inaccessible for people who weren't familiar with a lot of the JRPG turn-based action-related stuff. And so when Chrono Trigger came out, a lot of the mechanics of that, you could call it hand-holding a little bit, maybe almost like a Final Fantasy series, but with training wheels on it to some degree to get people used to a lot of the core mechanics
Agreed.
that are in all of those. And then when you get used to that, then you can upgrade essentially as far as the game mechanics go to Final Fantasy and all of those. So
And you can enjoy the other Final Fantasy game. You
Right.
can enjoy Final Fantasy 3, which is essentially Final Fantasy 6.
Right. in the US, here,
Two
it was
is
3.
four.
It was
Yeah.
So it was
But,
Final Fantasy. Yeah, and then when PlayStation came out, you immediately enjoyed Final Fantasy 7 because that was groundbreaking. When
That's where they made it. Okay, we're going to the everything is 7. You know.
Yep.
I will say also with Chrono Trigger, the mechanics, the gameplay mechanics of that is so much more intriguing to me. I never really growing up like got the whole, and I get it now, but like growing up, I was like, I don't really get turn-based RPGs where it's like I hit you, now you hit me, now I hit you, and now I'm gonna heal. Like I get it now, and I think it's fun, but Chrono Trigger was so cool because it had a like bar where like you reach a point where you get to choose when your attack happens, but also other people, the enemies, have a bar. They're on the same bar, and if you attack them in the time between them choosing their attack and the actual attack happening, then you knock them back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was just like such a cool way of like incorporating turn-based RPGs, but also like being more strategic and when you choose to attack, how you attack. And a modern game that has adapted that would be it's that paint. It's a game that's like everything's hand painted.
Oh, what is that one
By
called?
Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Why am I?
I'm
It's like
forgetting the name of it.
yeah. I'll remember
Look it up.
what it is.
Look it up.
Yeah.
and the idea that you got to combine characters and you get
Yeah,
to
you
learn
can
what
dual
they learn
attack
through.
and
Then you have the
right.
dual attacks and the tri attacks, and then if
Yep.
one holds on a special object with the right set of characters, you could then a new attack opens up. So
Child of Light.
Child of Light.
That's what it
That
was,
is
yeah.
a good game.
It's
That's
a
pretty
fantastic
game.
game.
That's a
It's
very pretty
beautiful
game.
game.
Art
Yeah.
style is really good. I'll just do a quick mention of mine, and then we can move on to Christian's, and then we'll wrap up with that. Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past. That's mine. It was on the fence between that and
Goof Troop?
Super Metroid. Goof Troop.
Goof Troop is so
a fun game.
good.
It was a fun
Dan,
game.
what shirt are you wearing right now?
That was
saving it for
like a Disney version of Zelda. It really was.
Yeah.
Like it was,
Yeah.
Two-player. Me and my dad used to play
two-player
Goof
dungeon
Troop.
crawl. That was a
It
good
was
game.
so fun.
But no, Zelda Link to the Past is absolutely the best
Beautiful
game.
game.
It's
Beautiful game.
fantastic. It's so fun and it's so beautiful. And the music, again, going back to the music, like that music was so good.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
great.
much so that I'm making an entire table dedicated to it. So,
Yeah.
there you go. So,
No,
and then
Also-
finally, last but not least, no, go ahead, Andrew.
One last thing is I could literally take an entire episode and talk about the Super Nintendo.
I have no doubt you would. Too.
Andrew,
I
I'll
love
join
it
you
so
on
much.
that one.
yeah, that's a
Dude,
that's-
let's do it. Okay, so the Super
If I didn't
Nintendo,
pick the PS2, I would have picked Super
Yeah.
Nintendo,
Yeah.
hands down.
Konami and Capcom. Super Nintendo, well, 16-bit in general, but
Yes.
They were,
Oh, they were
especially the Super Nintendo, Konami
Yes.
and Capcom were just kings. They
Mega
were
Man X.
Oh,
amazing.
Mega Man series, yeah, dude.
Um,
Real.
I mean, Contra, Alien
Yep.
Wars. You've got Super Castlevania 4 and Castlevania Bloodlines on the Genesis. I mean, you've got Sunset Riders. You've got just so many good games, and
Yep.
like all the Disney Capcom games that like NES
Those were
had some
good.
great. Yeah,
Yep.
NES had some great Disney Capcom games, and it continued into the Super Nintendo. And
Yep.
so, just like there's a
The
reason
Lion
why
King, Aladdin, Jungle
Yeah.
Book. All there were like
so many good
balls
Disney
hard.
games.
A lot of
yeah.
really-
so hard.
Yeah.
They were not
Anybody
OPM,
now.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Where like
and
a
that's,
Disney game comes out now, and you're like, "Oh, cool, Cars 3. I'm never gonna play that."
and that's
You know?
a question I have no doubt that we'll bring up in next week's conversation as we continue this and start talking about remasters and remakes versus the way games used to be, but how hard games used to be and the new features they have to put in them just so people can enjoy the old. Like, we'll get into that, but
Rewind. Yeah.
let's move on to our last chunk here. Christian, I
Oh.
forgot I put this in here. This is Andrew's wall of games.
And that's
Bajillion
slimmed down.
cartridges.
That's
This
slimmed
is-
down a
I was
lot
going to say this is a very
Um,
very slimmed down version.
because I moved and I was like, I don't want to take this many
All of
games
this
with me. So this is slimmed down a lot.
Well, there
but
it is.
One of my
Good-
favorite
good
things
collection of
in my
cartridges.
one of my favorite things in the collection is my Sega Master System games.
The boxed one, right? You
Take
gotta-
take some time when you got a second and watch or just search Sega Master System cover art, and it is the
Ugh.
worst.
It is a riot.
They are
You will
gross.
laugh so hard
Clip
at how
art.
bad this art is. It's
And
They
it's
so bad.
literally took.
It's so bad, it's good.
Do you remember in grade school in math class, you would draw in the corner of your notebooks?
Yes,
Like they
Yeah.
they
exactly
went to,
what they look like.
basically.
they went
that.
to a random
Definitely.
school to a random kid for every game, and they said, "Hey,
Yeah.
Alex the kid, what do you think of?" And they drew it.
Yeah.
They're like, "Great, I'll give you $5 for that." And they
Yeah.
ripped it off and put it on the
basically.
Master System cover
Yeah.
art.
Which the Master System, for those who don't know, is the 8-bit Sega system that competed
Quote
with the
unquote.
NES.
Like anything actually competed, but
Yeah,
It coexisted.
it coexisted. And, most people think that the Genesis was the first Sega system that came out,
Mhm.
but it's not actually. And actually, the Master System technically isn't either. It's the SG-100, which is a Japanese only system. But in America, the Sega Master System was the first.
right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me show.
Those original Mega Man cover arts too were those were a
Those
doozy.
are bad too. Yeah.
Those were a doozy.
Like this is okay.
Some
real
of them
quick.
were some of the Mega Man, some of the artwork from NES. They were true masterpieces.
Yeah.
We should do a cover art night
Oh, I'm
where
down.
we just bring up our favorite cover arts from video
We
games.
can talk about how unimaginative too, like they've come into like recent years. So it's just the main protagonist, bro, in the front with shadows covering him, and then the title. That's every Call of Duty, every RPG now. There's
Yeah.
a big dude just like, "Oh, this is the game rated M for mature." I'm like, "Oh, great." It used to be like really pretty watercolors, like in Final Fantasy and stuff like that. The front cover.
Right.
Oh, where's
Christian,
my
what's
internet
your
going?
game?
There we go.
So mine is the Nintendo 64. I was very torn between Nintendo 64
Oh shoot!
and
That's not what I wanted to put up.
the Super Nintendo. I was flipping back and forth between the two of them, and then once I saw that most of you guys had the Super Nintendo, I wanted, at least for just some diversity.
Give some 64 some love, yeah.
And I could go on for hours and hours and hours about all of the games that I love in the Nintendo 64. Because I think the Nintendo 64 is criminally underrated, which is ridiculous considering it's very popular, but it's criminally underrated.
Everybody makes fun of the controller, dude.
But
Everybody does.
it didn't matter.
It's actually pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
It is. That's what I was gonna say. Like everyone makes fun of the controller, but I actually really, really like the Nintendo 64 controller.
Yeah. I mean, so you have games like Super Mario 64, which to this day is still the best 3D Mario game of all time.
And the Switch released a collection with it inside of it, you know?
Yep.
You got Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, like I mentioned earlier, Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong 64.
Oh, that game.
One of, I think, my two personal favorites are probably Pokemon Stadium, like Alberto mentioned earlier,
Good one.
and Banjo-Kazooie.
Mm-hmm.
That's one a lot of people
Banjo-Kazooie and then Banjo-Tooie were both so good.
Then there's they had a nuts and
We don't
bolts,
we don't
right?
talk about that.
Yeah, that
was
go
on the
the
360.
64 though,
We
right?
don't
That
talk
was-
about that.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
We don't
And
talk
then also hot take, Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
Diddy Kong Racing is 10 times better than Mario Kart.
Boom.
It's
Mic drop.
yeah, a lot. There is a group of people that are like hardcore about it being better.
Racing, yeah.
I mean, you can fly, you can be on a hovercraft, or you can drive a car.
Yeah, they're passionate about that game.
And I
They
know we
were the
mentioned
ones
it
that
last week
introduced
too,
that. They
but
introduced that first before Mario Kart ever went there. Having different
Pokemon
vehicles.
Snap. I know
Pokemon
me and Andrew talked about that last
let's
week.
go.
I will
Yeah.
thank Diddy Kong Racing at least for introducing the world to Conquer before we got his actual game.
Oh yeah.
Was that his official introduction?
That was his official introduction, and
Yeah.
then
Really?
it took a very left turn.
Yes.
I thought there was like a 2D Game Boy thing or something.
There was a
for
Game
while,
Boy game,
right?
but I think
That was
Yeah.
his
There's like
official, like
Fairy Tail or something.
mainstream. It was his official mainstream introduction.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
like where he was supposed to be going. Was like that.
Yeah,
And
Um,
that
yeah, the
didn't
64
happen.
man.
Not
it wasn't like
Rare,
super rude
rare.
and crude humor in the Diddy Kong
Right.
Racing. He was
But
just
like
on
the
that
64 and Rare games, like, you know, my favorite games, the Donkey Kong Country games, were made by Rare. But like apart from that, they didn't make a lot of Super Nintendo games.
But the ones they
64
did,
yeah, the ones they did were amazing. But like the 64, it was just like hit after hit after hit.
Rare is one of those companies that I am so sad
Yeah,
that like they basically just fell off the face of the earth after Nintendo 64.
but I
They
will
had
say also though that
There
I
were more
feel
hit or
like-
miss after that. There were more hit or
well,
miss.
after that, there were more hit or miss. But I will say that I think that after the 64, that generation of gaming wouldn't
Yeah.
have continued well. I
Yeah,
don't think
no.
that going into the next generation, that type of gaming would have been as successful as it was
No,
on the
agreed.
64.
Yeah, 100% agree. But it just makes me sad because they made so many good
Totally.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, GoldenEye and Perfect
GoldenEye.
Dark were by
Yeah.
them.
Star
right?
Fox 64 was my favorite game on the 64.
Oh yeah,
That was your favorite.
The
Yeah.
one downside to the 64 though for sure is that I had a cousin that had a PS1, then I had a cousin on 64. I knew for a fact growing up, if my cousin had the N64 version, I know that he got either the crappier sounding one or the graphically downgraded one. Because they
Nintendo
had
has
to make
always had that.
sacrifices for it.
Nintendo has
Yeah.
always had that.
But
side
all
of
of
the
their
coin.
own games that
Yeah.
weren't on the
Yeah, all their
PlayStation
own
were
games were
just
great though.
amazing.
Yeah, Nintendo
Greatest
has always
example.
been that like the third born child who gets the worst hand me downs of everything and
The
is
greatest example of that, I think, Alberto, would be Resident Evil 2.
That's the first one that came to mind.
yeah. I remember
Like-
you guys were taught. You guys made. I remember
we
you guys
talked
told the
about that
whole
one
story
before.
about
Two
that.
whole
Yeah.
discs, and they stuck it on
Yeah.
a cartridge. Blows my mind that they even pulled that off. You know,
They didn't.
But the cut areas.
Yeah,
Well,
they did.
pulled it off. I mean, they,
Yeah.
they put something on sore shelves anyway. So
So I think something that would be a fun thing for us to kind of end on is just leave it as a question mark, and then we could pick up with kind of and with our answering our question next
And with
week,
this question,
would be, what is one retro game that you never were able to beat as a child that you went back and beat later on in life?
I'd have to think about that.
That you
So-
did
That you
or you're
were
still
able to go
trying
back
to
to?
beat?
Either way,
Or
either
your
one that
girlfriend.
you've
like-
never beaten, or one that you couldn't beat as a kid, but then went back to as an adult or a
My
teen
list.
or whatever and beat.
It's
I know
so
that.
cute.
I know my answer just because I brought my case with me because I thought we were going to answer it, and I was.
I have
I'm-
that answer right now.
yeah, me too.
I've got one as well.
I do too.
Just
but
start,
we're gonna
start at
save
the
'em.
top.
I thought we were gonna save them.
Let's just do it. Let's just do it then. Let's just do it.
And
real
just
quick.
do it.
If
Well,
everybody's got
I
it.
wanted to end. I wanted to end with this. Everybody, Andrew wasn't joking. Legitimately, you need to go check out all of the cover art for Sega Master System games.
Ooh.
this is an excellent example.
Yes.
Pro Wrestling, the Sega Master System. What is
Yikes.
going on right here?
And I mean, even apart from like the bad clip art, just the fact that every single game is this
Everyone.
gridded thing, and
It's
then the
so bizarre.
cartridge, like compare that to an NES cartridge where there's like actual art on the cartridge. Like
It's-
all of the cartridges look like this.
And it's not just bad clip art. What the hell is happening here?
Yeah.
The guy's
there-
head.
Is
He's
there
giving
any sort of
himself a head-
identifier on the actual cartridge?
That's it.
No, that's it. It was
It's
just
literally
it was
just
a
every
little art
cartridge.
in the title.
Every cartridge is
That's
this
all it was.
brown,
Every cartridge has the
radiant
red and black lines like that.
That's ridiculous.
It's
Yeah,
awful.
like-
And also, Sega Master System had
Cards.
cards like the
Yeah.
Turbo Graphics.
So
Before
you
the
could
Turbo
get the cartridge version or the card version.
Yeah, and the Sega Master System, you could put the cartridge in the top or put the card in the front. But then when the Sega Master System Model 2 came out, they took away the card feature. So there were certain games that you couldn't even play on the system because
Right.
Yeah.
It was a really odd.
Yeah.
Sega's got a weird history of consoles, which is why they don't make them anymore.
Yeah. Which I was so since we're like 8 minutes past, why don't we save the answer for the question for next week?
Kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Let's
Anybody
hang tight.
listening, watching, leave it in the comments. And next week when we start up and we're answering our own answers, we'll throw up some of your best ones as well.
Throw it out there. What is a game that you never beat as a kid that you have continued to try and maybe successfully beat now
Yeah.
as an adult?
I'm calling
Excellent
it now,
question.
but a lot of the comments are going to be NES era games because those games
Oh
were
yeah,
so difficult. Some of them.
insanely hard.
100%.
We'll get there. So,
Yeah.
but thank you, gentlemen, so much. This is an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
Great trip down memory lane.
Yep. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be doing a part 2, continuing this talk and journeying into the remake and remaster department of retro gaming.
Yeah, maybe a little ROM hack discussion as well, which
Perhaps.
gets really weird.
And definitely some arguing
Really
between Dan and the rest of us when Dan's opinions are wrong.
And I'm okay with you guys being wrong most of the time. I'm all right with that.
Gentlemen,
Have a wonderful
you all
week.
stay safe.
Have a good night.
Take
See
care,
you
guys.
guys.